Okay, good evening, everyone. The meeting will come to order. Welcome to our first meeting in June. Glad you're here. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the adequate notice compliance statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the City Clerk's office in the preparation of the Council Annual Meeting Notice dated December 15, 2022, which was properly distributed and posted per statutory requirements. Please be advised that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Allen?
Here.
Ms. Fox?
Here.
Ms. Hairston?
Here.
Ms. Hamlet?
Here.
Dr. Levine?
Here.
Mr. Miniger?
Here.
President Vartan?
Present. Thank you. And for our Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to have our brand new City of Summit interns lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please read the explanatory notes regarding closed session and hearings and comments.
A closed session meeting as authorized by state statute was announced and held prior to the start of this meeting, and the known items for discussion were listed on the published closed session agenda. Please be advised that council meetings are broadcast live on Comcast Channel 36 and Verizon Channel 30, and rebroadcast on Thursdays and Saturdays on HTTV on Comcast 36 and Verizon 33. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, spell your last name, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or council member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the City Clerk's office at cityclerk@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes or so in length. Unless you are using an electronic device to follow the meeting agenda or need it for professional emergency contact purposes, please turn it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move on to the approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion for the regular and closed session minutes of the meeting on May 16th?
So moved.
And a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Moving on to reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. The previously rained-out annual AAPI celebration will be held on Saturday, June 10th, from 5 to 10 p.m. on the Village Green with dancing, food, music, holly, and ending with a movie showing of Moana. Sorry, my granddaughter, who's 5, would be chastising me. More information is available at summitcommunityprograms.com. Tonight, our team of college interns is present at the meeting. Please stand. Alex, Anna, Carter, Hope, and Kate. These wonderful people, you may sit down. These wonderful people will be working with us for the month of June in tax assessment, community services, human resources, community programs, and communications. I have received a report that their first week is going very well. I've seen them every day, and their projects are off to a great start. Thank you to City Staff Member Megan Champney-Questelate, who is coordinating the program. And this year we have finally done what I think is the right thing. And these are paid interns, not volunteers.
You're here.
And lastly, in the past few weeks, on a more serious note, we've had some break-ins in our community. We're taking this very seriously, and I would like to ask Chief Zagorski to come up and speak to the community about what has happened, and what we are doing, and where we are now. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good evening, through you, Council President.
Yes, sir.
Over the past week or so, we've unfortunately experienced a number of burglaries on the north side of town in our community. I know when these things happen, it causes concern, and there's always a sense of vulnerability among the community. So I just wanted to assure everybody that the Summit Police Department is fully committed to addressing these incidents, and we are taking every necessary step to ensure everyone's safety and security. Before I go into some of the steps that we're taking, I just wanted to briefly touch on some of the incidents that we've been experiencing over the past week or so. The most recent occurred this past Friday evening at around 9:45. We had two burglaries, two unoccupied residents on Prospect Hill, and one attempt of a residence on Prospect Hill that was also unoccupied. When I say unoccupied, I mean that some people lived there, but they were away for the evening. So these residents were apparently targeted by the suspects. Our evidence shows that these burglaries are not the work of the car theft suspects that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years. These type of burglaries are more indicative of traditional burglary crews. And then 1 week prior to that, at 1:50 a.m. on Memorial Day, there was a burglary to a home on Sherman Avenue. Now, this one was one that was committed by the individuals that had been doing the car thefts in Summit. This incident on Sherman was a disturbing incident because it involved the suspect breaking into the residence at 1:50 in the morning when the residents were home and asleep. Fortunately, the residents slept through the incident and they were unharmed. But the sole purpose of the suspect during this burglary was to enter the residence and to steal the key fobs to two vehicles that were parked in the driveway. As I stated before, this one was disturbing because the residents were home during this. These were rare occurrences, but they do happen on occasion. But when they do happen, we take this very seriously. Actually, we take it, pretty much personally, and it changes the whole dynamic of and how we investigate this an incident to this magnitude. During this incident, our detectives they were able to identify a suspect relatively quickly. When you identify, a suspect, as you're doing your investigation, we do what's called the deconfliction, which is you put the suspect's name into a database, and it checks to see if any other law enforcement agencies are looking at this suspect. When we did that, we found out that there were numerous agencies, state and local, that were looking at this individual that we were looking at for a number of similar crimes. And as yesterday afternoon, a task force consisting of the New Jersey State Police and the United States Marshal Services placed this suspect and a number of other suspects under arrest. And he's going to be charged with a number of crimes in a number of different jurisdictions. It looks like he's going to be held. He won't be released, pending bail. And this gives us the benefit of continuing our investigation and gathering additional evidence against him, and then we could actually put our charges on him then. We will also have the additional benefit now of working with the other jurisdictions because the U.S. Attorney's Office is involved in this investigation, so we'll have the benefit of piggybacking on any warrants and subpoenas that they get for this individual's personal information. Okay, the measures that the Summit Police Department has taken in response to these recent burglaries. For the past week, we have assigned 3 additional officers to the night shift, the overnight hour shift, on a temporary basis. We're going to do this, for the next couple of weeks. These 3 additional officers, they're tasked with specifically conducting high visibility residential grid type patrols in targeted specific sections of the city. The regular duty shift between service calls have been asked to increase the frequency of residential patrols and also to increase motor vehicle enforcement traffic stops on roadways leading into the residential neighborhoods where we've been experiencing some of the problems. Our detective bureau, some of our detectives from our detective bureau have been put on extended hours, and this is allowing them to actively investigate these incidents, spending more time, and they're able to coordinate with local and state law enforcement that are also working on similar types of crimes. Again, I just want to reassure the public that the Summit Police Department is taking all of this very seriously. We are on top of this, and we just encourage the community to remain vigilant and alert, as always report suspicious activity, and to take common sense crime precautions to protect themselves and their property. Thank you. Your Worship.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Through you, Council President, and thank you, Mayor, for having our chief to talk today. It means so much to me, for you to add to the report how sensitive your police officers are to those of us who are parents and grandparents of Black and brown men who we worry about being targeted, who may be on their way, because we know lots of kids are walking to school and are out with their friends. And I know that you are very sensitive about making sure your officers have relationships and that parents don't have to be at fear for their kids who are just walking around.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. We'll move on to our next report. Administrator Rogers.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. 2 items. On Thursday, June 8th, Summit Downtown is hosting its Popular Family Fun Night. Before and during the event, there will be no parking from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the Bank Street lot on Bank Street and Beechwood Road from Union Place to Springfield Avenue. And the last item, which will be good news for many who have long waited for this news, Union County will begin milling and paving operations on Summit Avenue between Route 24 and Morris Avenue on Monday, June 12th. Work will be performed overnight between the hours of 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. for approximately 6 nights, weather permitting.
Very happy.
Work will include milling, paving, and striping of the road. Sections of Summit Avenue will be fully closed when crews are working in the area. Detours will be in effect, and police will be on site to direct traffic. Parking will be prohibited within some work zone, within the work zone on Summit Avenue during milling and paving operations. If it is necessary to leave cars on neighboring side streets overnight, please submit a request to the Summit Police Department online to avoid being ticketed. And that's all I have for tonight. Council President, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. On to my report. I've got a few things. First is Council discussed Broad Street West in closed session this evening. The scope of our discussion was the recent Broad Street West Advisory Committee meeting, and we spoke with our attorneys. I know that report leaves a lot to be desired. We are working hard on this and are limited with what we can share publicly at this moment. I'm appreciative to all of my colleagues here for your diligence, open-mindedness, and I am committed, we are all committed to providing more information as soon as we possibly can. Thank you. Second is, since our last meeting, council members hosted a table to provide information and answer questions at the farmers market on May 21st. Thanks to city staff for providing us with materials to share, to Mayor Radist and council members Levine and Miniger for being there, and to everyone in the community who stopped by. I think we signed up a new poll worker as well, so that was fun. I want to add just a couple of my thoughts on safety also. Summit is one of the safest communities in the state of New Jersey, and we are committed to remaining one of the safest communities. We have an excellent community-focused police force, staffed by brave and highly trained professionals who put their lives on the line every day. The reality is that this is not a gated community. This is a city, and crime will happen. Incidents like the auto thefts and burglaries in the last several weeks are unsettling, they're scary, they're concerning. But the community can and should take comfort in knowing that when the police make a request for tools or equipment, council always says yes. In my time on council, we have never denied a capital budget request from the police department. That was true even in this lean capital budget year by providing the ALPR geofencing system approved at the last meeting. I'm also glad that we heard from the chief who spoke about increased patrols, because in addition to the crime prevention techniques, including joint task forces and new technology, those patrols are a very visual deterrent to crime. And to that end, as a former first responder for more than 12 years, I know the high number of responses by our first responders to certain types of calls or specific locations on a regular basis. So we will continue to work to reduce the burden on our police officers, to keep them on the road and patrolling. And we will continue to celebrate their bravery, ability to adapt, and commitment to this community. So that's all I have for my report this evening. I think we're moving on to a proclamation that is not listed on the agenda, but we're ready, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. This is a proclamation in light of the month of June, which is highlighting eradicating gun violence, not guns, but gun violence. So would I please ask Diane Drysdale to come, and if you want to bring Wyatt as well, too. Good evening, everyone. Okay. Whereas every day, approximately 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, and hundreds more sustain non-fatal firearm injuries. Whereas firearms are the #1 leading cause of death for American children. Whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed through gun violence than persons in other developed countries. Whereas in 2021, U.S. gun violence surged, with more Americans dying in gun-related injuries than in any other year on record. And overall, firearm-related deaths increased 48,830, the highest number ever recorded by the CDC. Whereas the U.S. has a ratio of 120.5 firearms owned by per 100 residents, up from 88 per 100 in 2011, far surpassing that of any other country in the world. Whereas the United States gun suicide rate is 10 times that of other high-income countries, and access to a gun increases the risk of death by suicide by 3 times. Whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is a mayor's highest responsibility. Whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are most familiar with criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. Whereas to honor the thousands of Americans whose lives are tragically cut short every year, and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 2nd, 2023 as the 8th annual National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas on National Gun Violence Awareness Day, we wear the color orange, which symbolizes the value of human life, in hopes that it will raise awareness by honoring the lives lost and human hardship endured due to gun violence. Now, therefore, I, Nora Radist, Mayor of the City of Summit, do hereby proclaim the 7th of June, 2023, as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Summit, and hereby reaffirm the city's commitment to remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, to support local communities' efforts to prevent gun violence, to honor and value human lives, and to declare that we, as a country, must do more to reduce gun violence. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Summit to be affixed this 7th day of June in the year 2023. I want to thank you. This is a resident of Summit, Diane Drysdale, who's done a lot to support the efforts to end gun violence and save lives. So I'd like you to say a few words.
Can I say a few words? I'll try to make it short. First, I want to acknowledge also Lacey and Tracy, who have been also very involved in the movement, and they deserve credit for all of their work. I'm going to try to make this short because I know there's so much on the agenda, but we'll see.
No, you will make it.
No, I will make it. Thank you, Mayor Radist. I'm Diane Drysdale, the Gun Violence Prevention Chairperson for National Council of Jewish Women, Essex County. I'm also a member of Ceasefire New Jersey, which is a working group in New Jersey of advocates on this issue who have been very involved in the legislation, gun safety legislation that's been passed under Governor Murphy. So June is Gun Violence Awareness Month, and you've heard some very horrific facts. Here's some more. This past Memorial Day weekend, at least 175 people were killed by gun violence. At least 496 people were injured by gun violence, and there were 17 mass shootings. We already heard that now gun violence is the #1 cause of death for children in the United States. Okay, so an overwhelming majority of Americans are disturbed by these statistics, do not adopt the uniquely American idolatry of guns, and are sick and tired of the preventable gun violence. We are fortunate to live in New Jersey, where the gun laws are among the strongest. We have the 3rd lowest rate of gun deaths in the country, okay? Now, that's great, and we should be proud of that. But how many of us are aware of the Supreme Court's June decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, a decision that dramatically increases the stakes for gun violence throughout the country, including in states like New Jersey with strong gun safety laws. In Bruin, the Supreme Court struck down New York's 100-year-old concealed carry, that means hidden carry, of firearms law, finding that it violated the Second Amendment. The 6-3 decision, written by conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, distorts history to rule for the first time that the right to keep and bear arms for self-defense extends outside the home. So in December, New Jersey, our legislature and governor enacted a new concealed carry law in response to Bruin. Immediately, the new law was challenged in 2 lawsuits, leading to Judge Baum, Chief United States District Court Judge for the District of New Jersey, to temporarily enjoin me prevent enforcement of substantial provisions of the New Jersey statute. In a May 16th ruling, Judge Baum found additional provisions of the New Jersey law, which was intended to protect us, illegal. In particular, that New Jersey could not deny gun owners the right to carry concealed firearms in a number of public and private places. Our Attorney General is appealing the district court ruling to the 3rd Circuit on an expedited basis. In short, everyone should be aware, and most people really aren't, that now in New Jersey, as the law stands, it is completely possible that when you take your children to the zoo, the movie theater, or a local library, there may be many people carrying upon them concealed weapons. As the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence concludes, the carrying concealed loaded guns in public places can quickly escalate everyday conflicts into deadly altercations, causing tragic, irreversible damage to innocent lives. I think we've all seen that in the news. I'm going to cut this short to say, what can we do? Well, first you vote for candidates on all levels, local, state, and national, who support gun violence prevention legislation and policy. Next, you volunteer with groups such as Mom Demand Action, Brady, there's a number of them, to try to reach out to the states where the gun laws are weaker and the representatives are less likely to vote for gun safety laws. You can make phone banking part of your fun activities in your free time to reach out to people in those states, let's say Mississippi, Tennessee, and when you get someone on the phone, you encourage them to call their representatives and ask that their representative, their senator, support gun safety legislation. That's really critically important, because these states that don't support gun safety legislation, they need to hear from their own constituents, okay? So what else can I say? Nothing else other than please remember to vote, and thank you, I'm done. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to get it. Oh, how beautiful. I'll bring it to the office.
Thank you. Okay. So we're moving on. We've got an assessment hearing. Okay. So we're going to open up. I'm doing that right?
Yes.
Okay. So they were looking at me like I wasn't doing it right. Okay. I'm now going to open up the assessment hearing. These hearings are for capital improvements related to ordinance number 19-3195 that were road improvements to Butler Parkway, Caldwell Avenue, Clark Street, Dayton Road, Huntley Road, Willow Road, Eaton Court, Milton Ave, Gary Road, and New Providence Road. A few points on this. First, this work has already been completed. Second, residents being assessed received a letter and had the opportunity to meet with city staff. Third, this is the last assessment hearing related to installation of new sidewalks that we will have. That's because when we adopted our new sidewalk installation and maintenance policy in 2019, council decided to work the full cost of new sidewalks into the capital budget plan, rather than assess residents. So, those are my 3 points about this. We're gonna open up this.
Council President,
yes.
if I may, the finance chair should
The
make the
finance chair
motion.
should really do that, yeah.
Make the motion to open the hearing with a second.
Can we have a motion to open the hearing?
Sure, I move to open this hearing.
A second.
Very good. The hearing is open. Nope, nobody?
I just have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And again, just being new, my question, Council President, is, so this happened in 2019. I'm assuming it just got stalled and we're voting on it now because of COVID, or?
So
I'm
we're
just-
not voting on
I'm not
anything,
voting, but the
right.
hearing, like, what's the history on the time lapse here, I guess?
Yeah, so we're having the hearing on this now, which is statutorily required. And my understanding is that, you know, there's a lot that goes into this. The work has to be completed. Then, at that point, they have to go through and analyze how much was spent on each person's property, right? Based on the amount of space, the frontage of each property, right? So, well, we'll just let Aaron answer.
Certainly through you, Council President. So there's a lot of departments and divisions that get involved with an assessment. So first, the bond ordinance was 2019, and typically a 2019 project doesn't get started until 2020. These projects all of them did start in 2020 during the pandemic. Projects didn't close out fully until 2021. But then we also work with the tax office to always try to keep this June schedule for doing the hearing, because it ties to parts of their operation to keep it simple. So essentially, it's about 2 years after the project's completed that we could do that, which would have been the end of 2022. So this is really the first opportunity to close these out, so.
Understood? Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President?
Yes?
And I just want to add, and I could be wrong, so through you, my understanding is this assessment is the last of the assessments of sidewalks that
Yes.
would be charged back to the homeowner. So today, we would not have those assessments anymore because we don't do
Correct.
that. So I just want to make
Yep.
that clear.
So folks getting new sidewalks now, we're not doing assessments for those. It's worked into the capital budget. Yep.
Historic moment.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're going to close that out. That hearing's closed. Excellent. Okay, we're moving right along. We have so many ordinances for hearing. I'm so excited. Okay, so I have a note here. Okay, so, Madam Clerk, I'll ask you to read the first one.
Ordinance number 23-3279, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-25, regulations for the movement and the parking of traffic on municipal property and Board of Education property, and subsection 7-25.2, municipal parking lot areas.
Okay, and Councilmember Hamlin.
Thank you, Council President. Oh, thank you. It's up there. Perfect. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Council President. This is an ordinance, 23-3279, amending the Code, Chapter 7, Traffic, regulations for the movement and parking of traffic on municipal property and Board of Education property, subsection 7-25.2, municipal parking lot areas. This ordinance will provide resident commuter parking in currently underutilized post office lot. I move this ordinance for final adoption.
Make the
Open the hearing.
motion to open the hearing.
Sorry, I make the motion to open the hearing.
I second.
Okay, very good. The hearing is open.
And real quick,
Yep.
we did a couple slides today just to give everybody in the public. I wanted to give everybody a visual because there's about 5 ordinances on today, and they are a little bit complicated if you just look at the wording. So we wanted to give you a visual, but right now, the current post office lot is underutilized, and we're not exactly sure, maybe it was from the pandemic, but it is underutilized, so this will allow resident commuter parking in that lot. And Rita McNanny is here for any questions as well.
Okay, we'll open up to council first. Yes, Jamie. Sorry.
Jamie.
I saw you first.
Oh, sure. I'll just make a quick comment. I think this is a good idea because we're repurposing often vacant spots to residents or other people that very much need these spots. So I think it's a great idea. And I'm just mentioning a question I asked prior to the meeting just for the benefit of the public because I think it's of interest. What occurred to me is, we are somehow reducing the amount of available staff parking. My concern was, do the local businesses, are they aware? Was SDI aware? And Rita did inform me that SDI, was represented at the meeting where they discussed this ordinance and therefore, they are aware. Because that was my concern, that businesses or the Y that's under construction, where's our staff, where's our parking? But, so thank you for that. And I just thought that was relevant for the public.
Okay, Marjorie?
Yes, thank you, Council President. So I've been going back and forth with you, Ms. McNanny, with emails, and I'm still having a really hard time figuring out who is allowed to use this lot. I think it's a great idea to open it up, but when you say resident commuters, are those people that have a permit, like a monthly permit, or is it any resident who can use this lot?
Through you, Council President, currently, for the public's awareness, currently the lot is used by downtown employees, as well as the postal office. They use it for night parking, and then they remove the vehicles by 9:30, 10 a.m. So this picture depicts that it is underutilized. So with the removal of our Broad Street East lot, which was 180 spaces, we need to be a little flexible. So with looking at the lot counts, it is underutilized. So to answer your question, Councilman Fox, what is being proposed is anyone with a resident permit and that they commute to they use it for commuting purposes.
But why, I guess what I don't understand is, I'm a resident, if I want to park there all day for another purpose in downtown.
You certainly can.
So it's not, I don't have to get on the train in order to, so resident commuter doesn't mean that you have a monthly, quarterly, or yearly prepaid permit.
That's correct.
It just means I'm a resident, that's all it is.
And you have to have a permit to park in the lot, that's correct.
And when you say a permit, you're talking about the $10 permit that allows us access.
It's a dual parking to the transfer station, as well as the parking lots that are permanent.
Got it. So what is a permitted resident? Because that was used, that was a term that was used in another one of the ordinances, and I don't know what the distinction is between a permitted resident and a resident
Each of the
commuter.
lots that were depicted on the last slide, the lots are broken down for uses. So in some lots, it's strictly for downtown employees, like the tier garage, and this lot currently. And then the Broad Street garage, Elm Street lot, that's strictly for what we classify as resident commuters. If someone has meetings downtown all day and they're a resident and they have a permit, they can park in these lots. What the permitting does is it restricts non-residents from taking up resident parking as well as downtown employee parking. That's the distinction. It's just to say that they're a Summit resident, they're able to use these lots for whatever use they want to, as long as they pay the fee. It all depends upon the location and what they're downtown for.
Okay, so the two terms are the same?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and then the last question is, I'm not sure that there is is there actually one of the meters, the Muni?
Yes, there is
one?
a kiosk in every one of the lots. This particular kiosk is, you see the entrance going off of Broad Street. On the back side of the parking lot is an entrance off of Maple Street coming down Railroad Avenue, which is a one-way.
Near the mailbox, right?
Right, and right by the mailbox is a payment kiosk.
Oh, there is a kiosk.
So,
Okay.
because mainly the area that downtown employees walk, they walk down Railroad Avenue to get to downtown.
Sure.
But they could also pay with Park Mobile.
Okay, and there'll be signs up that
Oh, yes.
say the zones and all that?
And even there's a sign at the entrance on Broad Street that we already contacted our sign vendor to give us a mock-up to change the sign. And then there'll be other signs on the other side, too.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, sure.
Councilwoman Fox, I sent you a picture of it earlier. I wasn't sure it was the right one, but I know you asked, and I truly didn't know the answer either, so it's somewhere in your phone, probably.
Okay, yeah, no, it was just too small to see.
Yeah, I know, I feel, sorry about that.
Okay. Were there people over here? I always look left. I'm just trying to be equitable. Yes.
Yeah, that's totally fine. No, I forgot my question. Oh, how are you going to communicate so people will know to be able to park in that lot?
So what we do, once an ordinance is changed, we put things on the city website. Will send emails to the downtown to let the businesses aware and also to Summit residents. So people can sign up through the city website for notifications for a variety of information. They can sign up for downtown information, for commuting information. So we will send email blasts out, even our office, not through the website, but we have our own email for anyone that's permanent. So we can send a specialized email to residents that are permanent that they can also utilize this lot if it gets approved this evening.
I'm sorry, I remember my question, I'm sorry.
I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
piggybacking on that. I know that the communications chief, Amy Cairns, is well aware of the conversations and votes that are potentially taking place tonight, and she's ready to go.
And her and I will have a meeting tomorrow. And
I
we'll-
know you will. She's ready to go.
Yes.
Sorry, I just want to be clear, through you, Council President. So downtown employees can still park there, correct?
Through you, Council President, that is correct.
Okay.
Susan?
Through you, Council President, as somebody who is paying close attention to folks who are getting back into commuting, are you having any concerns about, or do you have a way to track that so that you know when you're going to be at threshold?
Yes, my staff actually does counts every single day, Monday through Friday, and Saturdays as well. So that's one of the things that we look at on a monthly basis. And also our council committee looks at these counts, and then SPAC looks at the counts. So that's why this recommendation was brought to the council committee, because the Broad Street Garage, Elm Street lot, Elm Street, Sampson, they're full every day on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I already knew that I had to start making adjustments because of also the loss of the 180 spaces in the Broad Street East lot. So this is a way for us to have more flexibility.
So just for the benefit of people watching, SPAC is the Summit Parking Advisory Committee, which we're
Yes.
very glad to have community members as a part of, as well as downtown business owners, representation from SDI. That's good. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I looked at the numbers a little while ago, is that some lots, like the Broad Street Garage, for example, get to capacity on a daily basis.
Not
But
a
the
daily,
system-
Tuesday,
right, so
Wednesdays, and
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Thursdays.
Thursday. But the system as a whole has never been back to capacity, or has never been at capacity.
Not
right? Like
pre-COVID,
since-
no.
Right, exactly. So since COVID, right, a resident is still going to be able to find parking in the system, in the parking system.
That's why we made this change for this
Right,
particular lot,
exactly.
because
Yeah.
normally the resident commuters that commute usually are on the south side of town. That's where the parking lots
Right.
are, and it's structured close to the train station. And the other side, which is the north side, that's structured for the downtown employees.
And so if I'm a Chestnut parker, I should think of this as basically an upgrade, right? You can now just drive a little bit further down the street and park in here, right?
You certainly can, sure.
I think that, yeah, right? Okay. Anyway, anybody else?
Nope.
Members of the community? Hearing, parking? I think we can close that one, right? Oh, yes, sorry. Spoke too soon, Greg.
Are you taking comments for each parking ordinance? Or, I mean, I
Yes,
just
so we'll
kinda
do
have
the
a
same
general-
thing for everyone.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I just have kind of a general question about all of the ordinances, but first, if I may, I just wanted to thank Diane, who left, and Mayor Radis for the proclamation. As a gun violence survivor, it's a personal matter to me, and I really appreciate that Summit has stepped up to show that we are committed to helping end gun violence, so thank you. But as far as the parking, so there are several here, and.
And can we just get your
Excuse
name
me,
and address?
Tracy
Thank you.
Keegan.
Thank you.
15 Sweetbriar Road. A couple of them are going to be pretty impactful for residents, some in a very positive way, but some in a little bit of a negative way. So I heard Councilmember Levine talk about how SCI was at the meeting and businesses are aware, but I'm wondering what kind of outreach was done before these ordinances came up? Was there any due diligence beforehand, reaching out to residents and telling them what was going to occur and asking them for feedback or opinions? I don't know how you do this stuff, but it seems like it should be something that might be a good idea when you're going to change something so important like parking.
Sure.
Through you, Council President, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, we had the introduction, which is advertised publicly on the city's website in the council agenda. And then this ordinance is publicized in the newspaper about the hearing, which is required by law. We did have meetings with the Summit Parking Advisory Committee that have residents. And again, that's all we're required to do, but we did reach out to the downtown because that would be, if there's any impact for downtown employees.
Thank you. Just one quick thing. I'm a person who pays very close attention to what goes on at council meetings, but most people don't. And, so I feel like, just announcing it at one council meeting isn't going to do a great job informing the public. And I feel like maybe better due diligence could be done next time on something like this. So just, a suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I did have sort of a follow-up to
Sure.
Ms. Keegan's comment. Ms. McNanny, you said that you went to the downtown. Did you go to the SDI meeting to discuss this, or just Nancy Adams attended at the SBAC meeting?
Through you, Council President, if I may, I would say at least 10 years back, I used to attend the SDI meetings. And then we wanted a better representation, and the Summit Parking Advisory Committee was formed, and SPAC is SDI is represented there. So then they're represented there, and then it's SDI's responsibility to inform SDI's members.
Okay, so you don't typically attend?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Through you, Council President, has there been any complaints from employees downtown that they're not getting enough, they don't have enough parking?
No, quite frankly, that's why we propose this. The post office lot has sufficient availability. The tier garage has close to 150 spaces every day. So there, even if there is someone that happens to get pushed by too many residents parking there, there's availability in the tier garage, the K lot. There's plenty of availability.
Okay.
Yeah.
My suspicion would be, right, that employees downtown are still parking where they probably shouldn't be, right? Right. I mean, I'm just, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. I'm just saying,
Well,
right, like,
Let me put it this way, Council President, if I may.
Please.
Anyone who parks in an area that is for shopper and exceeds the time limit, we ticket them.
Great. Yeah. Good. And more fees now.
Yes.
Yes, good.
That's not the point.
Well, I'm just saying, yes, Susan.
Well, actually, your follow-up question answered particularly mine, because I wondered how the enforcement staff are doing and some of the intolerable behavior of some of the business owners or employees who are getting upset with enforcement. Wanted to make sure that they have what they need to do their job.
Through you, Council President. Yes, my staff is well aware that they have support through management and through the city. They have the tools that they need. It's not an easy job. It really isn't. And they get abused out there, unfortunately. However, any type of situation, I ask them just don't engage, have them call me directly, and then I handle it one-on-one on the case, and I speak to the individual. We get calls that I feel like I am being targeted. And then I explain where they should park, what the rules are, and I try to engage them to park legally.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that you and your staff feel you're being abused and targeted. There's way too much incivility in our community, in our country.
And I thank you for that.
But you're doing your job. But
we know it is a part of the job. On every interview, it's explained because we can't control how people react.
Right.
And we have to react in a better frame and then educate people as best we can. And I can give you a prime example. Someone continued to get tickets for parking illegally at a street meter every day. There's a lot across the street. All they need to do is get a permit. To this day, this person has not gotten a permit and continues to park illegally. So we can only educate them, teach them, but the onus is on the individual driving the car and where they park.
Of course. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the public? Comments from council? We ready to close this first hearing? All right, 20% there. The next one, please, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 23-3280, ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-25, regulations for the movement and the parking of traffic on municipal property and the Board of Education property, subsection 7-25.2, municipal parking lot areas.
Okay, Councilmember Henley.
Thank you, Council President. As our city clerk mentioned, this is an ordinance that amends the code of the City of Summit, Chapter 7, Traffic, regulations for the movement and parking of traffic on municipal property, subsection 7-25.2, municipal parking lot areas, to list spaces in the Broad Street Garage where non-residents may park, to codify that non-residents must reserve parking in advance through the city's reservation platform, and allow for Summit residents or downtown employees to park in the Broad Street East lot. So as you can see here, it's a little bit fuzzy, but just to give you an example, we're already really doing this with having the non-residents park in certain spaces. This will allow non-residents to reserve their space through the Park Mobile reservation app. And at this time, I would like to open this ordinance up for a hearing.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Excellent. Okay, the hearing is open. We'll start with members of council.
Council President,
Yeah.
if I may, can I
Yeah.
give a little bit more background?
Sure,
Okay.
please.
So, once the Broad Street East lot, which is the open lot to the right in this picture here, was given to the fire department for their new firehouse, and after COVID, actually, non-residents and residents were the first to come back. So what we decided to do was the top level of the garage with designated spaces were for non-residents. We do have Midtown Direct. We do offer non-resident parking at a higher rate. And also, we wanted to make sure that the residents and employees are satisfied as well. But what we've come to find out is that the non-residents come in. If there's not a space, they're taking resident employee parking spaces. If they still don't find a space, they go to the street meters. So we had to find a system that could better manage this, to control the number of spaces. And but what happens is once the non-resident comes, they expect to get on a train to go to work. So if the spaces are filled, they park anywhere in the garage or they park on the street. So what we've done since prior to this ordinance being introduced is we're enforcing. So if they take just so that everyone's aware, if they take a resident and employee space, they get a prohibited parking ticket. And we do counts, we manage it every day, we ticket every day. Some days there's 15 tickets that we give. Some days it's 30. Then we also do the street meters that are 5 hours. They're parking longer than 8 hours. They're getting tickets there. So, but also we don't want to be a ticketing town. So I had to come up with a solution. So we utilize Park Mobile as a payment platform, pay by cell, and they offer a reservation platform. So the idea behind this ordinance on the non-resident commuter parking is before they drive to Summit, they have to make a reservation. They have to secure a space for these 128 spaces we have. Once it's full, the hope is that they won't drive here. And they can actually make a reservation up to a week in advance. So if they know they're going to the city 3-4 days a week, make your reservations, early enough, but once it fills up, hopefully they won't drive here. If they do, we will continue to use enforcement as a tool to hopefully negate that. But this is I feel, a great step moving forward to better manage the non-resident parking and to curtail it, actually, because, parking, we have availability, but as time goes on, I've lost parking. I'm afraid I'm going to lose more parking, so I want to be able to manage it through the whole system.
And if I could add, Rita and I spent, an hour together yesterday morning, and the amount of cars that were coming into this garage, we were waving everybody down and telling them to turn around. So I do think it will help with that, with the frustrated non-residents that are looking for a spot.
Okay. Members of council? No?
I had a question. I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah.
So This is the one that, where we set the new rates for the non-resident commuters, correct?
Through you, Council President, yes, the current rate for non-residents is $12 a day. It's going up to $13. However, the reason why it wasn't calculated to go even higher is because through the reservation platform, the consumer that uses the platform must pay a $1.95 convenience fee for the service. The city is not paying for that service, the non-residents. So therefore, actually, their rate is going to go from $12 to $14.95.
Okay, and I guess what I'm wondering, I did ask for information about what other communities charge for non-resident parking, but the ones that you gave me were really not comparable to Summit in the sense that, you know, people are not, you gave me Cranford, and I believe Berkeley Heights was $10, Cranford was $6 or $7, you know, New Providence, or was $7, I believe. But, you know, what would be more comparable would be a town that was a Midtown Direct that has that express train. So if you go to Chatham or New Providence, you get half the trains. It's not as convenient, and you don't get that express train the way you would in Summit. So, you told me that Milburn did not offer non-resident parking.
No, not at all.
But I guess the question is, so I think it's comparing apples and oranges a little bit to look at other communities and what they're charging that, you know, don't offer the same convenience that we do. And I'm wondering, are there any other towns?
Through my history here, we are the highest charging town, even on the Midtown Direct. I don't have that data this evening, but all throughout doing town surveys, we are the highest.
But what we've learned is that people are willing to park, you know, to go to the DeForest lot and spend $50 and overstay their time. So I think there's, you know, we don't really know what the market will bear on this, is what I'm asking about. You know, how. So I just was curious on what information was out there. Because certainly, like if you were to drive to Hoboken and take the ferry or take the path from there, what would you spend on that?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information.
All right.
So if we're looking at the numbers on this, right? So it's a pretty okay deal for the city. It's an amazing deal for Park Mobile because it's $1.95 a day now for additional, you know, however many, 128 cars, and it's a pretty crap deal for your out of town, for your, you know, non-resident commuter, right? It's more than $700 additional per year. Okay. Here's my question though. We have to make sure we keep it at least 125 so that we make sure we're not actually losing revenue on this, right? Like we need to make sure we're capping the number of non-residents, but in order to maintain the revenue level that we're having right now, we also need to have a floor at 125 or 128 non-residents too, right? So
yes,
I just want to make sure we're talking about the numbers of the whole thing so that we're not losing money on this and you know, getting into something that winds up actually hurting later down the line.
Well, through the reservation platform, I will manage it as far as because in the beginning, I have to make sure, because people will drive here. So there has to be, and I don't want them taking resident employee spaces. So I have to fudge the numbers as I go along. And then eventually, once the word gets out, so I can speak on that for a moment. I've already spoke to our communications office. We are going to add a non-resident commuter component to our notifications through our website. We're also going to hand out flyers explaining how this reservation platform will work, when they need to sign up, and also we will ask for email address so we can, you know, do blasts to them. But again, if you trust in my faith that I can manage it on a daily basis, which we do, I don't plan on losing revenue.
Excellent. I trust you. I don't as much Park Mobile. You know, do we have experience with the reservation? I mean, do we have experience with their app having malfunctions in a way that we lose money on it? I mean, like, have we ever had that happen before?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I would say in the, I'm approximating 10 years that we've used Park Mobile, it might have been down once or twice. What does happen is people don't do the updates to their own app.
Oh, yeah.
So that is, and, you know, people call our office, it's not working today, we're like, you know, re-download, upgrade your app, because they do make changes, like any other app that's out there in the world. So that we do.
And I believe, Rita, I believe Sea Caucus is 30, from what I understand. So it's, if that's one data point, but I don't have Hoboken.
Oh, dollars? $30, okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, we
Sorry.
went back to before. Okay. Yeah, Lisa?
Okay, great. I have two quick questions. So I would just say, I love the reservation system idea. So do we think that that would truly be a deterrent, though, for people coming here and not,
Well, there's two
like,
things.
non-residents? Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Council President. With the effort that we made, the prohibited parking fine, $65, coupled with the fact that, you know, plan ahead, you know you're going into the city. If you want to go from Summit, you have to use a reservation platform. We're going to be sticklers about that. If they do park, which is going on right now, if they do park in a resident or employee spot, they get a ticket. So I think eventually the word will get out that if you do park in Summit and not use the reservation platform, you will receive a ticket.
Actually, I have a half a question before my next question. Can residents also?
That's it, yeah.
How
do you ask half a question?
I have a question. Well, can residents reserve also? I think that would be amazing.
Currently, that is not in the plan.
Okay.
Everything is first come, first serve right now. There is parking availability. And I really would not want to have to charge residents $1.95.
Gotcha.
So I think we're going to start with this. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
And then it's a
Right.
good test model, but I think it'll work.
My full question, I'm so sorry. That was my half question. My full question is this.
It's hard to make the distinction.
And anybody that has historical knowledge on this dais might know this answer. So I'm under the impression that we got the Midtown Direct train because of our out-of-town parking. Is that correct? And is there a minimum number that we need to maintain in order to keep that status?
A little bit of history,
Okay.
since I've been here a while. Originally, the plan was to build a garage, and if we were going to use New Jersey Transit money, we would have had to have it open to the public. So what the residents said that no, we want it for the commuting residents. However, New Jersey Transit has stated, I know some people may argue there's nothing in writing. I remember, well, that can be found. I remember back, I worked for the city administrator when I first, I was city clerk and then the administrator's office. Regan Burkholder, with doing all of the work with the garage for the original plans with New Jersey Transit to get federal funding and all that, and then with the actual Broad Street garage as it is now. We have to have a certain amount. Now, can we find the exact number in our files? It might have been discarded accidentally, but that was the idea, that we need to provide public parking for the Midtown Direct lines.
One question.
So we had Susan and Andy with hands up, and then we'll work our way down this side.
Yeah, so through you, Council President, mine might be a three-quarters question. Because I love Park Mobile for the fact that it is located throughout the nation.
Yes.
And you never know what you're going to run into when you're trying to park in places that you haven't been, when you're renting a car or something like that, so as long as you got the app. So my question is, can we also think about it, not just to keep people out of town, but also how can employees benefit, and we find ways to incentivize how our employees we can make this an attractive place for Summit to work. And so I know that's a long-term request.
Through you, Council President. Sure, I mean, any options, could be discussed. I think that that is also a role of SDIs with recruitment. So, we're more than well. I know in past years ago, they did do a scale depending upon what time of day you worked. That didn't work too well because all the street meters were taken up. And then they'd go in, or they go in and then they'd only pay the dollar fee at the end of the day. So we've tried a few things over the years, but we're open to any type of, is it something that we partner with SDI and the city, and we come up with some sort of a program for downtown employees to assist them? I would welcome that. We've had campaigns where we asked employers to pay for their parking. They started to many years ago. They're not willing to now. But again, I don't think should all be on the city. I think, maybe some sort of partnership with their recruitment and, and outlying lots. We tried that too. The further out you went, the less expensive it was. People want convenience too.
Andy.
Thank you, Council President. So I also love this reservation system idea. Within Park Mobile's admin site, do you know if there's going to be a way for you to quantify the number of people that overall wanted to reserve, like people that failed to reserve? Because I think that might help you with like price finding, which is what some of them are concerned about here.
I don't have an answer for that, Andy, through you, Council President, but I can find out. I'm going on a parking conference next week, and I have a meeting set up to get even detailed reservation platform. So that'll be one of the questions I'll ask.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just one question, Director McNanny, that I forgot to ask you, but regarding to Councilwoman Allen's point for the reservation platform to exist in other areas of town, is that something that I guess you'll learn more about at the parking lot? But that is a capability right now through Park Mobile, correct?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make
can-
sure,
yes.
so you understood that that is a capability that is available. We're just not doing it right now. Okay, I just want to make sure you understood. Got it.
Okay. We've had a good solid round up here. Let's get the community involved. Members of the public, anything on this? Everything okay over there? Hi.
Lacey Cotter, 123 Summit Avenue. Sorry, asthma with this. So I have a couple questions. One, what I'm hearing is a desire to keep people out of Summit. And so I just want to know if this is entirely exclusionary, that there's no other. That's not accurate. What I mean in terms of this particular lot. There's no way that you could park there without being able to use Park Mobile.
Through you, Council President, these are non-resident commuters that what we're experiencing currently is they're taking viable resident commuters that are taxpayers and also those that are employed within our downtown. So if we were to, what we don't want is to have, we're not being exclusionary by any stretch of the means. What we're doing is we only have so much parking right now in our capacity. So what we're doing is we're saying, yes, we welcome non-residents, but the capacity is only 128 spaces. We're not excluding non-residents. We're making sure, and that's part of my role, is to make sure that there's sufficient parking for resident commuters, downtown employees who work downtown, and also anyone, any visitor, whether they're a resident or not, that wants to come to our downtown for a meeting, for a lunch, to shop. So we are not being exclusionary at all.
But you need to have a computer and a cell phone to be able to.
No, there's an
make a
800 number that Park
reservation?
Mobile has.
Okay, that was my question. And then my other question is if this is like a prong effort with getting residents to use bicycles. Is there any sort of incentive for that? Like, I'm a commuter, and I know a lot of people drive and drop off, but most of this town, people can ride a bike. And I've been here for 20 years. My ex used to ride a bike. So just wondering if that's a piece of this program.
It's not specifically a piece of this particular ordinance. I know that in past years, DCS has added bike racks through New Jersey Transit. If we ever get more parking, one of the ideas is to add bike parking, motorcycle parking, more EV charging stations, but I don't have the facilities or the areas to facilitate that. But anyone can ride a bike to the train station.
do have the new bike shed coming.
Yeah.
Also, by the
I
way,
did see
right?
that.
That's going to be fun.
I did see
So thanks to the Summit Conservancy for that, and the green
Right.
team and the
The Bike Walk.
Bike Walk Coalition, a bunch of people involved in that.
And
So
DCS.
that's coming
Yeah.
soon, right? Aaron, we're kind of looking soon on
Soonish.
ish.
I like that word soonish. Can we go with soonish? Or shortly?
Yeah.
Both
It's on
are
the
appropriate
horizon.
here.
Yeah.
It's very close. There's some, you have a lot of parties involved in New Jersey Transit, the City Conservancy, DCA, so we're closer than we've ever been, but still soonish is good.
Okay. And maybe it ties in to that. Well, I'll let you continue to ask your question. Sorry.
Yeah, my final part was just, is there's data on those that are parking, if we know how many of them are sticking around longer to be in our restaurants after the end of the workday and that kind of thing. I know my kids work in restaurants here, and they've got a lot of out-of-towners that stick around. I don't want to see it impact the
No,
restaurants.
actually, pre-COVID, with planning for a possible additional garage, I believe it was 2015, we did a survey of all the non-resident parkers, and we specifically asked them within that survey, what do you do besides just parking your vehicle here? They use the cleaners across the street. They meet their significant others or families in downtown for restaurants. They walk around, they shop. Again, this is not to exclude anyone to come and visit Summit Downtown. We welcome everyone. This is to manage a crisis that we're having with non-resident parking overtaking our resident employee parking. That's all it is.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could just say, Councilmember Miniger, you've been on this committee longer than me, but is this something do you see any issues with this reservation platform?
Well, no, the phone number thing was answer that question. But
Yes.
yeah, smartphone, I mean, it is quite smartphone driven. With the phone number, it allows those who don't have it to still participate.
And
Yes,
just- sorry,
may
go
I,
ahead.
may I say, through you, Council President, when we took on Park Mobile, that was one of my questions. So even from a landline, someone can pay for parking. You don't even have to have a smartphone. So, and that was a key attribute to the program that I required. Because not everyone, even 10 years ago, we've been using it for 10 years. We were the first town in New Jersey to implement it, Park Mobile. So that was one of my questions but there are people that aren't savvy on cell phones. Some people don't have cell phones, but even from a landline, you can pay for your parking.
And then just to address the last resident's question regarding the bicycles, how many bicycle racks do we have? Again, I'm new here, but I'm just trying to understand how many bicycle racks we have for commuters.
Aaron?
Yeah, through you, Council President, there's a bike rack map that's posted online somewhere. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but there's a few locations and on our webpage, it's the bike rack location map that details that.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
That's what I learned today, that we had a bike rack location map. That's good. Not to the train station in the morning. Is it, and I'll say, I think maybe, well, let me start by asking this first. When's the last time we increased the non-resident commuter fee, the parking fee?
I believe it was 2008
Okay. So these parking ordinances,
or 2000. No, I'm sorry. I think that was 2012.
okay.
Because we've steadily increased that.
Yeah, I guess there's no way, right, through because it's an ordinance, right, we can't just have it be set that every year or every other year, there's a certain percentage increase in parking, right? We can't just do that in
That would
perpetuity.
be a legal question, but my understanding is you cannot hold future council to
Yeah,
price increases.
I'm just thinking, this is a conversation, if we're gonna have once every 12 years, maybe we ought to be thinking about a bigger number, a bigger increase. Maybe we ought to be thinking about a couple other things, but it's like, maybe we just rely on future councils to not wait another 12 years to have this conversation.
I mean, the last 4 years, nothing's been done
Right, yeah.
because of
And
COVID.
that
So
was-
you
and
take
that
that
was-
out. We were doing it every 2 years.
Yeah.
We were increasing
Okay.
the non-resident
Well, see,
every 2 years.
Yeah, I think we want to get I think we should try to get on some sort of a schedule with this stuff, you know, just because I'm not sure still really entirely where the $15 sort of threshold is. You know, are we trying to meet a revenue target? Are we trying to just, you know, see if people will still pay it? I don't, you know.
I will state, none of my pricing is revenue
Right,
based.
right.
It's because of trying to manage it properly. As a matter of fact, for 20 years, our daily rate for employees and residents is $4. So if we needed revenue, you know, that's not how I base our pricing.
Yeah.
I just want that stated for the public.
Just that, that's helpful. Okay. Other comments from council? Comments from the community? Yes?
Rosemary Grace, Chestnut Avenue. So as I'm listening, I'm wondering what our responsibility is as a city, considering that we made an agreement with New Jersey Transit that we would have a certain number of spaces available for non-residents. I understand that there's a problem that you want to satisfy the residents and having enough spaces for them. But just because we've lost the number somehow, the paperwork, I don't think that relieves us of the responsibility legally to find that number. I'm sure New Jersey Transit has that number. No?
No. We've asked numerous times. We haven't gotten a specific answer, but I will say also, prior to, and it's an important fact, that prior to losing the Broad Street East lot, we used to park 250 non-resident cars, up to 250. So, you know, again, my role, I feel, is to make sure that there is sufficient parking for residents and employees. But we still have non-resident parking. We are going to have 128. So I think it's a good compromise.
I'm also wondering if Park Mobile has any, since they're around the country, if they have any data concerning the kind of program that you're proposing for the reservation system.
Specifically, what information might you be looking for, ma'am?
In terms of behavior, parking behavior, we're going to be cutting off those folks who, I'll call it the overflow of non-residents. I think they're still going to come, and they're still going to circle around and try to find a place, and they'll probably find a regular place to park. Are the fees, are the tickets sufficiently high enough to prevent that?
Well, our hope is we just increase them to $65 per ticket. So if we are ticketing every day and a non-resident continues to park where they're not supposed to park, it's going to get very expensive for them. We don't want to penalize anyone, but that is a mechanism that is at our disposal that we must use. Because we have been ticketing them every single day if they don't park in the right areas. But the fine was very low, and that's why we increased it. So our hope is, yes, you know, I understand your point. I cannot stop anyone from coming to Summit and parking on a public street. They're public streets. But that's why we have time limits to make sure that our town is not all non-resident commuters, so that we have sufficient parking for our workers, for our shopper people that want to shop and visit downtown, and also our resident commuters. So I have to take the whole program and look at it and see what's the best interest of all user groups. And that's why we use the time limits, so that they're, like on Broad Street, for example, they're 5 hours. Usually if someone's commuting to the city, they're there longer than 5 hours. So that's our judge. So then if they're there longer than 5 hours, they receive a ticket. And that's the only way, other than education and fee structures, and with time limits, that's the only way you can manage parking. We do ask people to park where they're supposed to park.
I know that we used to have a program where it was residents could use Uber to come to the train station?
We do.
Which would, so
We still do.
are people using that?
Yes.
Yeah?
Is there anything being done to encourage more people to use that?
Well, it is on our website. Matter of fact, I got 2 signups today. People sign up regularly. Unfortunately, the information is on our website. I don't have it here this evening. But yes, many residents do use that program. And that's why we started that program, to alleviate, because we had a parking problem. We didn't have sufficient enough parking. So that's why we started that program. It's still being utilized today. So if I were to take that program away, we'd even have more of a crunch within our system.
And Rosemary, the communications office pushes this information out periodically.
So whether it's a ride share in an Uber or a Lyft, whether it's a bike or a scooter or walking, we would prefer that people not park. But when they do, right, we want to make sure it's priced appropriately.
Yeah, we do offer alternate modes of transportation here in Summit.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you from my frequent walks down Union Place, pre-COVID, the bicycles that were there were, that whole fence along Union Place was filled. Now you can count on maybe 2 hands how many bicycles are parked there on any given day.
The response to that is New Jersey Transit did not want the bikes parked on their fence. So I'm not saying, you visibly don't see them any longer. I'm not saying that they're not in other locations. But New Jersey Transit stopped people from parking, locking their bikes on their fence.
Oh, well, some people still are doing it, but maybe they're ticketing them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have other comments?
I just had one question.
Yes, please.
I'm just wondering, you were talking about the Broad Street East lot, which a portion of it will be returned to parking after the firehouse is complete. Is there also an opportunity to accommodate more non-resident commuters by adding back the valet system that we used before?
Included in this ordinance, that the first part was the non-resident. The second part of this ordinance is to classify the Broad Street East lot that we will gain back once the firehouse is completed, but we're only getting 32 spaces back. And because the firehouse, the way it was constructed, they used to have a drive aisle out of the Broad Street garage and Broad Street East to the Salerno Duane Light, where people could make a left or a right. That drive aisle is now gone. So within that footprint of the Broad Street East, the 32 space, we had to put a drive aisle, losing more spaces, so that people can go out through the actual garage. So to answer your question, there will be no valet there.
Is there an opportunity to valet on the top floor of the Broad Street garage?
Yes, we looked at that. I believe it was pre-COVID. It's highly expensive.
More expensive than doing it on the lot?
The east lot? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, much more expensive.
Why? Isn't the cost labor?
Right. The labor and then also the equipment. It was, the last, I don't have that information tonight, but the last time that I looked at it, it was $1 million. We have an open surface lot, so it's a lot easier for them to jockey cars in an open surface lot as opposed to a garage. I don't know if you recall a few years, maybe 12, 15 years back, we tried during the holiday time to valet in the tier garage. The biggest problem why I was unsuccessful, people don't want to hand over their keys. They don't want their cars valeted. Non-residents had no choice. If you wanted and you got to take the train, they had no choice, they valeted. But here, that's our experience with valet. We tried it in the tier garage and it was a lot of money. We had to pay for all the labor and there weren't many cars that utilized.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Nora and then Lisa.
Real quick, so, but if we do valet for non-residents, they're more apt to hand over their keys.
Yes, but again, I can revisit it.
I'm just saying, down the road, if we're finding this is not enough, that's something we could look into.
Yes, one of the concerns I have is the waiting, that if a resident needs to wait in order to have cars moved to get their car out when they get off a train, that's the catch. I know.
True,
But
there's
it's
lots of apps now.
non-resident.
There's lots of apps now that you can order your car.
Right.
Before you get off the train.
Yeah, it's something we can look into if we need to.
Which we didn't have 10 years ago.
No,
So anyway.
I
down
also
road-
had the lot.
I know. Down the road, maybe it's something we could look at.
Sure.
Great, thanks.
Lisa, did you have?
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. The 30 spots that we're going to gain back once the firehouse is done, are we going to convert those to resident and then add 30 more up top for non-resident?
No, basically, we have 128 that are being in this ordinance for non-resident at the top of the garage.
Yeah.
In designated spaces. The 32 spaces that we're gaining back in the Broad Street East lot are strictly going to be for employee and residents, no non-resident parking.
Okay, so when you open up those 32 spots, though, we're not going to do anything upstairs to give more non-resident parking?
No, the non-resident is just 128.
Always?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Do we have comments from members of council? Any more comments from members of council? Okay. Let's make it quick, though, because we try to make it one per customer.
I'm so sorry that
you
I
know?
didn't think of this question earlier. Is there data on how many people are actually traveling in now? There's so many more people doing hybrid, and just wondering if that has been calculated into the analysis. That's it.
Thank you.
Driving into Summit? It was that,
City.
Taking
people
the
are
train.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
versus
lot
taking the
count.
train.
The lot count.
no,
question,
but
I think.
I would have no idea how many people drive into the city from Summit.
No, she wants to know the lot
Train.
count during the week, and the train. either-
Oh, I can get that. It's on New Jersey Transit. New Jersey Transit does the ridership figures. We don't do the ridership
But we have,
figure.
we have the lot counts.
Yes, oh, yeah. She mentioned ridership, that's why it's different than Parker.
So maybe you can get that information at some point, and we can send it on.
Sure.
Okay. I think we're gonna close the hearing now for this one, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah? Good? Okay, this hearing is closed. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 23-3281, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8, Parking, subsection 7-8.5, parking time limited on certain streets, and subsection 7-25.4, Regulations.
Okay, Councilmember Hamlin.
Thank you, Council President. So I'm just going to summarize this one and not repeat everything you just said. Is that okay, Rosemary?
That's fine with me.
Okay. So in summary, just to be very clear, this is the area which, if people aren't familiar, right between the middle school and Central Presbyterian School. So these meters were for employees, and what our parking service director and our former parking committee found was that these meters were not used, so we'll be opening them back up for 3-hour public parking spaces. I move that we open this ordinance up for hearing.
And I second.
Okay, and we'll start with members of council. Comments on this one? No? Nobody?
I just had one quick one.
Sure.
I'm just a little confused because it says east. Is this, which side of Morris Avenue is this on?
It's
Because
the side
there-
right by CPC.
Right next to CPC.
So wouldn't that be the north side?
No, I checked with the police
It's
department.
east?
It's east.
Okay,
I double-checked for you.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I thought we answered that on email. I apologize, Marjorie. Sorry.
No, that's okay, no problem.
No,
just-
I did check with the traffic bureau to make sure that we were correct and,
Okay.
yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's the CPC side?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I have a quick comment.
Yep.
I think this ordinance is pretty clean, and I think it's a good idea, and more resident parking.
Okay.
Thank you.
I even think, I was actually thinking about it today, I actually think this might help with the middle school situation, because people just typically just can't park there right now, so maybe it'll ease some congestion there. I'm not positive, but might be helpful.
Oh, I did have one question. I don't understand what paragraph 2, what that means on the second page of the ordinance.
I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me. What does it state?
It says the parking service agency or its designated agent shall provide Summit residential digital parking/disposal permits and downtown employee digital parking permits and daily visitor passes based on receiving the appropriate information, and payment is described below. Is that what we typically put in there?
No, this was a particular, there are different zones. And a zone for a permanent lot is for a resident, they have to have a permit, and that's what that's for.
It feels like there's something missing here, and then on the first page, the bottom of the first page, it talks about on-street overnight parking. Is this allowed to be parked on overnight?
No, I don't,
It feels like they're just pieces of things that don't belong in here, maybe.
I apologize, but I don't have a copy of that on me, because it was just,
Here's your memo. The bottom of page 1, 5, on-street overnight parking.
The committee, do you guys have anything about?
City Clerk, do you
No.
have the original ordinance?
I gave Rita the copy.
It's not, that's not the original, that's the, she gave her the,
I gave her the amendment that's being
Yeah.
heard
Oh,
tonight.
okay.
I don't have the original.
That's what I'm asking, if we have the original one to compare it to. I just don't have it on me.
it's just confusing, I don't know.
yeah, there's no, it says restricted use, there's no on-street overnight parking allowed.
Yeah, but why would it even have that in there, restricted on-street overnight parking? It's
Because
just-
the codes within the regulations have that some, certain streets, you cannot park overnight on a street.
But
And
it-
Morris Avenue is one of them. So I just kept that as is.
Uh-huh. It might, right, it's just confusing, because it's like, it's not clear what you're getting at. And then there's a paragraph 2. I think there's some stuff missing is the problem.
But this was the original ordinance, correct?
If the,
This is what was passed
Yeah,
by
yeah.
council
We
in,
can clean up the language, right?
Council President,
I don't know what
if
we're
the
cleaning up the
ordinance
language, yeah.
doesn't reflect any sort of underline or strike-through, it's what is existing
that's what
currently
it's
in the code.
existing.
Right,
Okay.
And it's just in there to show context.
right.
Right, it just doesn't make sense in this context, but
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't, that we weren't allowing overnight parking here.
No,
Okay.
no. There isn't
Yeah.
allowed on Morris Avenue in any part of town.
Right, that's what I
yeah.
wanted to make sure of. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
Okay, I think we did council, right? Members of the public? Nope. Okay, one more time, council? Okay, we're gonna close this hearing. We're getting closer, guys. Okay, Madam Clerk, the next one, please.
Okay. Ordinance number 23-3283, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 7-8, Parking, subsection 7-8.5, parking time limited on certain streets.
Okay, Councilmember Hamlin.
Thank you, Council President. So in summary, this ordinance, in order to educate the public here, prior to COVID, our Park and Services Director and our council had approved to increase the meter fees within certain portions of Summit from 50 cents to $1. So this ordinance will make everything uniform. And the reason that we had not moved forward with that prior to this was simply because of COVID. So this will make all of the meters $1. I move this, I move that we open this ordinance up for hearing. And Rita, if I didn't explain that properly, you can give a quick summary, but that is my understanding, and it sounds like Council Member Miniger, I know you've been on the parking committee for a while, so you might even be able to chime in.
And a second.
Thank you. Okay. Members of council, hearing's open. Nope. Okay. Members of the public? Parking fee increase, hearing? Okay. All right. That hearing is closed. Moving on to the last ordinance for hearing.
Ordinance number 23-3284, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 2, Administration, Section 2-69, Fees for Municipal Services, subsection 2-69.9, fees to be collected by the Parking Services Agency.
Okay, Councilmember Hamlin.
Yes, so in summary, the bagged meter prices will increase. So the bagged meters for private construction vehicles will be increased $5 to $30 per day. Utility company vehicles from $20 to $25 per day. Nonprofits for construction purposes, $20 to $25. And dumpster permit fees will increase from $35 to $40. It is estimated, based upon 2022 usage, that this increase would provide approximately $7,000 of increased revenue for 2023, and I move that we open this ordinance up for hearing.
And I second.
Okay. The ordinance is open for hearing. Susan?
Through you, Council President. This one is a real important one to me. I'm very annoyed by how folks have been, with their delivery, really are wreaking havoc in town and in places. And how do you imagine this? Is this a deterrent? If you can talk about that, this is a real pain point for a lot of people.
Sure, through you, Council President. One of the things we need to manage is, obviously, a lot of work needs to go on downtown, either on the sidewalk, in the street, or within buildings. And so what happens is construction goes on, let's say, inside a building, and contractors need their vehicles that have their tools. However, the way we look at it when we get a request, we may get a request for 5 meters on Springfield Avenue for one job. And we say, no, you can have 2, because we have to have turnover. And believe me, we have staff that checks all these different service vehicles because they try to park without paying the fee. And they take up a customer shopper parking all day long. I know there's another issue that we have of just illegal double parking, triple parking, and we're working on that as well. That's coming in a couple months. So this really, then a few years back, we had a request from a board member of a firm that just wanted a space reserved for him whenever he came to town. And that is not allowed. So, this is strictly, we have to be able to have these construction vehicles close by. You could see by the last couple of weeks with the PSE&G work, yesterday and today, all Springfield Avenue. I did not know that was going to happen. However, they are doing ramps. They're doing a lot of work downtown. Hopefully, the pain will be over soon. But it's not going to solve every parking problem I have. But this is, first of all, when they take up multiple meters all day long, Parking Services loses revenue. This is a way to make sure that they are actually doing a job within town and that they pay for the services.
You don't want it to be cost prohibitive, but is this going to recoup the amount of money you lose every
Yes.
day on a parking spot?
Yeah.
So $30, $40, okay. And do they pay you directly to the city, so they come in and give the city, Parking Services a check? for it? How does
We
that work?
accept cash, check, or a credit card. And we ask for 48 hours notice. 9 times out of 10, they call it the morning of. So we take credit cards over the phone, and then we process them through our register.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Other council members? Comments? Members of the public?
Council President,
Yes.
I just whispered over here this new favorite word of ours, reservations.
That's a good idea.
It is a great idea, through you, Council President. The issue that people like plumbers, electricians, certain service groups usually get a call the night before. So it might be a little bit difficult. And then also, I don't know, but I can find out whether the reservation platform, because I'm also with the conference, I'm looking at curbside management, because here's an example. We have a book, we map it out. So if a contractor calls and wants 3 spots on Springfield Avenue, another one wants 4 spots, what we do is we look at within a block by block, if too many spaces are reserved, we say, you only get 2, or you only get 1, can you move down? So that the businesses don't suffer for multiple days. And sometimes some of these construction projects within businesses last a long time. I know Walgreens, as an example, has been going on for a long time. So I can look into that, but the whole idea is that I'd have to have a map that would put in that curbside are already taken, that those spaces are already taken up. So it's a great idea, but 9 times out of 10, they're calling us when they're parking their vehicle and saying, hey, or they don't call us at all, and then we make them call our office and get the fee out of them.
Go Gotcha, but letting the SDI help you with that and having the business owners who they're delivering to, help them be responsible will be something to think in the future. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Members of the public? Comments, questions? Okay, I think we're going to close this one as well. Okay, we're on to, sorry, I did, yeah. We're now on to ordinances for final consideration, so these are going to sound somewhat familiar. The first one, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 23-3279, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-25, regulations for the movement and the parking of traffic on municipal property and Board of Education property, subsection 7-25.2, municipal parking lot areas.
Okay, Councilmember Hamlin.
Yes, thank you, Council President. City Clerk, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
In order of efficiency and to move things along, do I need to repeat everything you just said?
No, you can just say this ordinance number was just discussed, and you move for final adoption.
Okay, so this ordinance was just discussed, and I'm moving it for final adoption.
Very good.
And I second.
All right, we have to take a roll call, right?
Yes.
Yes, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. The motion carries. We've got one down. On to the next one, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 23-3280, ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-25, regulations for the movement and the parking of traffic on municipal property and Board of Education property, subsection 7-25.2, municipal parking lot areas.
Okay, Councilmember Hamlet.
Thank you, Council President. Having just closed this hearing a moment ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
And I second.
Okay, let's take a roll call, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. Thank you. The motion carries. And the next one, Madam Clerk.
23-3281, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8, Parking, subsection 7-8.5, Parking Time Limited on certain streets, and subsection 7-25.4, Regulations.
Okay, Councilmember Hamlet.
Thank you, Council President. Having just closed this hearing a few moments ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
And I second.
All righty, very good. A roll call, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Next one, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 23-3283, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8, Parking, subsection 7-8.5, Parking, Time Limited on certain streets.
Councilmember Hamlet.
Thank you, Council President. Having just closed this hearing a few moments ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
And I second.
And a roll call, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. And the motion carries. Last one, Madam Clerk.
23-3284, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 2, Administration, Sections 2-69, Fees for Municipal Services, subsection 2-69.9, Fees to be collected by the Parking Services Agency.
Okay, Councilmember Hamlet.
Thank you, Council President. Having just closed this hearing a few moments ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
So moved. Sorry. I second.
Excellent. Roll call, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. And that motion carries as well. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Congratulations, Rita. Thank you. Good job. And then I did promise everybody that we would take a little break. So we have a lot left on this agenda. So why don't we do that now? A little stretch. Yeah?
5 minutes?
5 minutes. Let's be back. Let's make it a tight 5, please.
Tight 5.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're back. Thank you. That was a good tight 5. Now we have some ordinances for introduction. We'll have them read first. Madam Clerk.
ID number 10397, an ordinance to establish the 2023 salaries, wages, or compensation of and for the officers and employees of the City of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey.
Okay, Councilmember Miniger.
Thank you, Council President. This ordinance establishes the salaries, wages, and compensation of and for the officers and employees of the City of Summit for 2023. This is for union and non-union employees, and this salary ordinance is introduced annually after the adoption of the municipal budget. The hearing on this ordinance will be on June 20th, our next council meeting. I move to introduce this ordinance.
I second.
Okay, and all those in favor? Nope.
Nope.
Roll call vote?
Roll call vote.
Thank you.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. Very good, thank you. Hearing on the 20th. The next one, please, Madam Clerk.
ID 10425, bond ordinance appropriating $1,991,000 and authorizing issuance of $1,896,000, bonds or notes of the city for various improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the City of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey.
Thank you. Councilmember Miniger.
Thank you, Council President. This is a bond ordinance appropriating $1,991,000 and authorizing the issuance of $1,896,000 in bonds for various improvements in Summit. Back in December of last year, we had the capital budget workshop where department heads presented to the council and the public the projects and equipment they indicated they needed over the next several years. And then last month, we had our budget hearings and approved our 2023 budgets. Among those capital projects approved were 100% of the requests from police and fire departments, including the ALPR system we use, the police use. The projects also include Maybe Playground, improvements to the stormwater draining system, road repair and resurfacing projects, and crosswalk and pedestrian safety improvements. Today, we are introducing the bond ordinance for these important capital investments. We have the hearing on this bond ordinance on June 20th, our next council meeting. I move to introduce, I move to introduce this ordinance.
I second.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. The third one, Madam Clerk.
ID 10426, bond ordinance appropriating $3,235,000 and authorizing issuance of $3,235,000 bonds or notes of the city for various sewer utility improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the City of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Miniger.
Thank you, Council President. This is a bond ordinance appropriating and authorizing the issuance of $3,235,000 in bonds for various sewer utility improvements. The sewer is a utility here in Summit, meaning it has its own operating and capital budget. Improvements and equipment being funded include TV inspection and line cleaning, upgrades at pipes and facilities, upgrades to several pump stations around the city, and new equipment like radios and an EV charging station. Today, we are introducing the bond ordinance for these sewer utility capital investments. We will have the hearing on this bond ordinance on June 20th, our next council meeting. I move to introduce this ordinance.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you very much. We have one from Safety and Health, Madam Clerk.
10334, an ordinance to amend the code, Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 7-9 Vehicles over designated weight excluded from certain streets of the code of the City of Summit.
And Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Council President. This ordinance amends Chapter 7, Section 9 of the City Code to reduce the weight limit on the High Street Bridge. New Jersey Department of Transit did a load rating of the bridge that showed that the load posted for the High Street Bridge should be reduced to 16 tons. This is a bridge that is nearing its time that it needs replacement, and the New Jersey Transit it's under their jurisdiction. They are in the process of designing a replacement bridge. But at this point, the surface roadway is under the city's jurisdiction, the bridge is under New Jersey Transit's jurisdiction, and accordingly, New Jersey Transit has requested that the city effectuate this change in the weight load of the bridge and post new signs accordingly. So I move this ordinance for introduction.
I second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. That motion carries as well. Hearing on the 20th. And last one for introduction, Madam Clerk.
Number 10398, an ordinance to amend the code, Chapter 4, General Licensing, Section 4-5, Licensing of Peddlers and Solicitors, subsection 4-5.15, Charitable Solicitation, and subsection 4-5.17, Violations and Penalties.
Okay, and this one is Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to introduce ordinance 10398. This ordinance amends the process of licensing and peddlers and solicitors downtown to streamline the process of permitting. Administrative changes include, but are not limited to, the permitting process is moving from the police department to the clerk's office. Charitable organizations will be required to display their credentials prominently on their tables, so passerbys know that they have obtained the proper documentation. Charitable organizations will be required to provide insurance and sign a hold harmless agreement. And if the charitable organization wants a permit for longer than 30 days, they will need to renew with with City Hall. The hearing is on June 20th, and I move this ordinance for introduction.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Fox?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
President Vartan?
Aye. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. We're on to the resolution section of the evening. We've got 3 from Finance. Councilmember Miniger.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 10410, and this resolution authorizes salary increases for non-union employees who are due a step and/or longevity increase as of July 1st, 2023. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second.
Okay, comments from members of council? Nope. Comments from members of the public? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. On to the next one. Andy.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 10408, and this resolution approves the assessment report issued by the city engineer for the specific 2019 capital improvements made on Butler Parkway, Caldwell Avenue, Clark, Dayton Road, Huntley Road, Willow Road, Eaton Court, Milton Avenue, Gary Road, and New Providence Road. The projects for which we had an assessment hearing earlier this evening. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second.
Okay. All comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? I don't think so. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Last one, Andy.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 10409. Once again, dealing with the 2019 capital improvements made on those same streets listed in the last resolution. For the property owners who have a shared cost for the improvements to their property, they may pay their portion to the city over 10 years. This resolution authorizes the fixed interest rate of 3.72% on the unpaid portion of that individual assessment. This interest rate is the exact rate paid by the city on the bond issued for this capital project. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second.
Comments from members of council? I'll just say this is the last resolution like this in Summit history. So, good riddance.
Bye-bye.
I say. All right. Because, as I've explained before, right, we're no longer assessing homeowners for new sidewalks. When new sidewalks come in, it's going to be worked into the capital budget plan and shared cost by the city, and it'll be paid for through the capital budget plan and the subsequent bond ordinances related thereto. Okay, comments from members of the public? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, moving on. We've got one from capital projects. Councilmember Levine.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution number 10307 authorizes the execution of an agreement with New Providence to jointly pave Division Avenue. The municipal boundary separating New Providence and Summit is in the middle of Division Avenue. The northbound or east side of Division Avenue is owned by Summit, while the southbound or west side is owned by New Providence. Division Avenue is currently scheduled for repaving due to its deteriorated condition on both sides of the road. Our engineer and New Providence's engineer have discussed the possibility of completing the project collaboratively and have drafted a proposed agreement. In this agreement, each municipality will fund only the work that falls within their respective boundary, while any soft costs, such as engineering or inspection services, will be split equally. The city maintains an excellent working relationship with that team at New Providence, and together the efforts will be coordinated. Currently, the city has draft plans prepared, and upon completion of planning the project, a notice will be sent to all residents to view the plans online. It is anticipated that the project will take place in the fall of this year. I move to adopt this resolution.
I second.
Okay, comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We've got a couple from Law and Labor. Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you, Council President. I'm introducing resolution number 10370 to do this annual process of renewing licenses for the 2023-2024 year. And we have provided notification of all 21 liquor licenses holders within the city of Summit that the renewal period has opened. And each of the liquor license holders had to successfully renew their licenses, and the following steps are required. They have to complete an online application and submit payments to the Division of the Alcohol Beverage Control, otherwise known as ABC. The submit payment to the City of Summit for the plenary retail consumption is $2,400. For the plenary retail distribution is $1,980, and for those that are clubs is $180. There's a tax clearance certificate that is issued to the city clerk's office from the State Division of Taxation for each liquor license, and upon all of those being completed, the council must approve those. And so I ask for approval of this resolution 10370.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Wait. Oh, no, I forgot to ask. Comments? Comments? Nope. Nobody? Comments from members of the public? Sorry. Okay. Well, we voted on that one. It's approved. Sorry,
do it
everybody.
again, just
Sorry,
so you-
everybody. It's approved. It's approved. Okay, the second one, I'm sorry. Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you, Council President. I'm reading the resolution for ID 10417, which is to grant a person-to-person liquor license transfer from the Summit Suburban Hotel to 570 Springfield Avenue operations. And this is on behalf of the owner of the 570 Springfield Avenue operations, has requested a liquor license transfer, which is solely owned by LMH Holdings. They are qualified to receive this license and have undergone all of the standards under Title 33, and I recommend this resolution be transferred to the new owner of the license as listed. And so that is asking for approval of Resolution 10417.
And a second?
A second.
Comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we're on to one of them from Community Programs and Parking Services, Councilmember Hamlet.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution, ID 10327, which will approve the Park Mobile non-resident commuter parking reservation platform. This will increase the parking fee for this group from $12 to $13 and will include a $1.95 Park Mobile convenience fee. I move to adopt this resolution.
And I second.
Okay, comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, we've got a few from Safety and Health. Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Council President. First resolution authorizes the lease purchase of a fire engine from a national purchasing cooperative. This engine will replace a 27-year-old engine that is no longer serviceable. The purchase price is $745,020, payable in 10 annual payments of $95,095.71. The lease costs will be paid from the city's operating budget for the next 10 years, starting in 2024. I move this resolution.
I second.
Okay. Comments from members of council?
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
Will, through you, Council President, will this fire engine ever see the old building, or will it be solely in the new one? New only?
New one. That's exciting.
Coming in 2024, so.
That's exciting. That's really exciting. Yeah. Yes?
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Tammy, for all your help today. I know I had about 14,000 questions on the packet. The one question that you answered for me, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So the not-to-exceed amount of $745,000, once we finance that, it will be more than that, but that's totally legal and fine, correct?
In the body of the resolution, in the title, I believe it designates the $745,020
Okay.
plus lease costs. So they're incidental, they're not, it doesn't amount to very much.
Okay.
But I can't figure that out until we finish signing the agreement, so.
Okay.
And we can't sign the agreement until you
Till we
approve
vote
the
on it.
resolution.
Okay.
So.
Very good. Thank you, and thanks for all your answers to all my questions today. And then just one question for the chief, which is, when you look at the warranties on different pieces of the equipment, I noticed that some of them have, even though we're leasing this for, we have 10 payments to make, right? The warranties on different pieces of the equipment are, like, I think I saw the warranty for the engine is 5 years, but the anti-lock brake system is 3 years, and the chassis, the workmanship is 2 years. So I was just trying to understand from a 10-year lease perspective, can you get like a 10-year, like a, you know?
Yeah, for you, Council President. Yeah, this is a typical, when the engines are custom built, so certain, like the drivetrain has their own warranty than the engine. So there are a bunch of warranties because the truck's custom built, and there's a variety of different companies that build the engine. So we usually get a 5-year extension on them. You have to pay for that, but really anything after that is not worth the money if they get anything beyond that.
And then, so this is a municipal lease, so we'll end up buying this at the end?
Excuse me?
We will end up buying this?
Yes, at the end of the lease, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lease
we
to
own
own.
it.
Lease to
At the end
It's
of the
lease
we have
to own,
own
so,
the vehicle.
Yeah.
so Chief, it means that we pay the 10 payments of $95,000 and we own it.
Yes.
So there's no lease, there's no purchase at the end, it's all.
No, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
just
we either
wanted-
lease it or we do capital and bond it. but
Right,
so
I
we're
just
leasing
wanted
it,
to make
so.
sure that that was clear to the public.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Other comments, members of council? Comments from the public? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Excellent. Next one, Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Council President. This is Safety and Health number 2, ID 10393. This resolution authorizes the submission of a U.S. Department of Justice Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant application. This is a grant that we do annually, and it will provide new body armor for 3 members of the police department. This funding request is for $2,272.20 and requires an equal match. I move this resolution.
I second.
Okay, comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Number 3, Marjorie.
Thank you, Council President. This is Safety and Health number 3, ID 10430. This resolution authorizes the submission of the Emergency Management Agency Assistance Grant application through the New Jersey Office of Emergency Management. And this grant, which is based on the 2022 performance of the city's Office of Emergency Management, will provide funding for the planning exercises and training. This funding request is for $10,000 with no match, and I move this resolution.
I second.
Okay, comments from members of council? Yes.
Council President, through you, I just want to acknowledge being so thoughtful And as we experience this really strange smoke and what's coming down from the fires, I just appreciate our chiefs being so proactive and staying on top of federal legislation that are providing dollars for this through our states, and then you all going through the hard work with our company that does the grant applications with you. And so it's moments like, today that I am grateful to know that we're thinking about those, very proactive. So thank you for pursuing this.
Thank you. And thanks too to Joe Hauk, our
Absolutely.
OEM coordinator
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
Any other comments from council? Comments from the public? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Last one, Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Council President. This is Safety and Health ID 10262. This resolution authorizes the enforcement of Title 39 jurisdiction at Tyrconnell Park, which is a development that will be built at 565 Morris Avenue. This resolution would give the police department jurisdiction to enforce traffic regulations on private parking areas and roadways within this development. This was a requirement of the zoning board approval that they apply for this jurisdiction, and it will improve public safety. It does not obligate the police to patrol the property, but rather allows for enforcement if needed. I move this resolution.
And I second it.
Okay, comments from members of council?
I have a question,
Yes.
actually. It might be for the chief. Does granting Title 39 jurisdiction in any way create a scenario where police would deviate from their usual patrols and their work? And would we be sharing with them our precious resource of our Summit Police Department in any way? Okay. Thank you. So it's just giving you the ability to enforce traffic rules. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, so for those watching.
expanding, it's not another patrol.
So for those watching at home, the answer from the chief was no.
Okay.
It doesn't. And my understanding is it's simply about access to the property for the police department to enforce if necessary. Susan?
Through you, Council President, I just want to, thank you for asking that question, Councilmember Levine, and I just want to reinforce that these are the kinds of regulations that help the police force do planning that to stay on top of crime, and it is for them to, not have everybody every place, but they are allowed to be proactive and coordinate with others. So this is a good way.
Thank you.
Okay. Other comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We're on to the consent agenda. If anybody wants to pull something out, let me know now. Otherwise, we'll take a motion on the entire thing. One way or another, though, somebody's got to
moved.
do something. Thank you.
I was worried there.
Yeah, me too. Do we have a second on this? Thank you, very good, very good. Any comments on the consent agenda? Comments from members of the public? I'm sorry, Mayor.
I just wanted to comment that I want to appreciate and thank the Overlook Hospital for their grant for the firehouse, as well as the Summit Elks and the other Fuller First Foundation.
Yes, thank you to everyone who, especially those groups who have given money to the fire.
And not to mention all the people
Yeah.
that bought pavers.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Any comments from the public on the consent agenda? Yes.
Dory Gagnon, 27 Bedford Road. I have a question. Community programs. This goes back a couple years. and nothing against Mark and the community department now, but I know that there was an issue with the finances and a question of where some finances were mishandled. I am curious about how much is being spent on events. And in regards to where funds are being allocated here, because and this will go into my public comment in a little bit. But we have a lot of events here, which is great on the Village Green, but I would like to see a breakdown somehow, some way. I know he's not here to discuss this, but how much our events are costing, how much our sponsorships are. We have a lot of events during the summer and stuff. If there's a way to see where our spending is going, where our sponsorships are, if that's possible, if there's a way to see that. I also would like to see, the Asian American event and the Juneteenth celebration. Are they actual celebrations? Because I was really disappointed in the Pride celebration. To me, that wasn't a celebration at all. I would have liked to see a parade. I feel like our community did not come together. We did not celebrate the LGBTQ population at all. I feel like we could celebrate the people coming up in the Asian American and the Juneteenth events together and maybe get a little more community input from people and not take away what happened in the last week or two and have that ever happen again. So that's my feeling, and I really would like to learn from what happened and maybe next year have a parade. Think about that.
Thank you. Just a reminder for the public, the money that's spent on community programs events like these that we have in the consent agenda come from sponsorships and from the Recreation Trust Fund and not from tax dollars. The money that is spent, however, is I believe in the municipal budget binder, correct, Michael? The breakdown is in the budget binder for the events, community program events.
There's some costs that are allocated, like overtime, that you'll see in the budgets, but as far as like what's used out of the trust, that's not, you won't see that in the budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that can be requested. Sure. That can be requested through the typical process. And then the other thing is typically with the AAPI event and the Juneteenth event, we've had planning committees of members of the community who have been involved. So I would encourage anyone who wants to see us do things different, we're more than happy to have people get involved and help with that. So yes, Delia.
And I was just going to say, Ms. Gagnon, David Guida actually sent a recap of all the costs that are associated with all the events. So if you send an email or Rosemary, we can follow up with you and send you that information.
Okay. Thank you. Other comments on the consent agenda, stuff that's on the consent agenda? Okay, let's vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Okay, and now we're on to the public comment section. At this point in the meeting, council welcomes comments from any member of the public about issues that are not topics on tonight's business agenda. We're getting pretty late, so we're going to hold people to about 3 minutes, please. So we're open.
Hi, Monique Taylor, 167 Passaic Avenue. Last Friday, Summit had not one, but two outstanding Pride celebrations, neither which could be dampened by the downpour, nor the ugly voices that tried in vain to darken our collective rainbows. Thank you to our faith leaders, social justice activists, and allies who made sure that Summit had the Pride events of which our town has become accustomed, and ensured that our children learn valuable lessons of love and inclusivity. I also want to thank Chief Zagorski and the Summit Police Department for providing safe and secure spaces for all of us, but especially for our LGBTQ+ community. And finally, to the City Council, thank you for not allowing hate to win. Yesterday, the Human Rights Campaign, our country's largest gay rights organization, issued a state of emergency declaration for the first time in its 43-year history. The declaration is a call to action for people in power at every level of government and the business community, urging them to fight for LGBTQ rights. Let us continue to be relentless in the struggle and radiate our summit pride.
Thank you. Thank you. Other public comments? Okay.
Hi, Bob Pulowski, 3 Crest Acre Court. Thanks, Chief Zagorski. I'm very happy to hear that we are increasing our police presence. There are concerns around town that crime is on the rise. Residents have fallen victim in each of the last 3 weeks alone to attempted car thefts, successful car thefts, home invasions, burglaries, and robberies. I'm also glad to hear that there may be a prosecution in one of these, as that's not often the case. And because of that reality, and to try to curb this trend, some municipalities have adopted a trespassing ordinance. Chatham Township, for example, passed one in March. I was encouraged in December when Dr. Levine pitched a similar ordinance for Summit. We could adopt an ordinance that would go beyond the state criminal code. We could impose hefty financial penalties for committing crimes or attempting crimes while trespassing. Those who cannot pay a fine could get an alternative penalty like community service. Maybe we could even mentor minor offenders as a part of that community service. If a perpetrator doesn't pay a fine or appear for their court date, a warrant would issue for their arrest, and they could be arrested again. Chief Zagorski touched on that before. If they're employed, we could garnish their wages. This might make it a little less appealing to target Summit. Deterrence is the goal here. Notwithstanding, I hear the council has decided not to pursue such an ordinance. This worries me. Residents have done such a good job locking their cars that the thieves have moved to our front doors and kitchen windows in some instances. Such escalation could lead to violence if and when an intruder does come face to face with a resident. Some might consider a home invasion violent in and of itself. And God forbid a burglar encounters a child. So I'm glad for the reactive measures the chief described tonight, but for our residents' safety and peace of mind, I hope the city will work to be proactive in addressing this issue and be willing to think outside the box. So I have a few questions. Why have we decided not to pursue a trespassing ordinance? Dr. Levine posted that a trespassing ordinance could be misused. Specifically, how could it be misused and by whom? Dr. Levine also said she had numerous meetings with the community. With whom did she meet, when, and what was discussed? I don't believe such an ordinance would cost much, if anything, to pass and implement, and while it might have an immediate effect, it might not have an immediate effect, it could over time. So what's the downside of trying?
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
I'm going to answer any questions.
I don't think we can tonight. I think if you want to email them in, give your statement to the clerk, and we'll follow up with you.
I think the only thing we want to say, though, is that we have not decided not to act on this. We just have not acted at this point. We are still discussing it in committee. So your information on that, in that regard, is incorrect.
Okay. So maybe.
So
that's all.
I'll ask you to
all
give
we can answer.
I'll ask you to give the comment to the clerk.
I'll email it to you because I have to.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thanks.
And we'll follow up. Thank you. Okay.
Council President, Mayor, council members, just a couple of concerns, talking to some residents. So first, I was wondering if there are any plans to build any homes between 7 and 8 Ashwood Court? If so, I would believe it would be important to discuss the impact on those homeowners. Additionally, if there are no plans for new construction, I'd like to know when the property at 8 Ashwood Court could be restored. Secondly, as it relates to Broad Street West, I was looking forward to hearing the new plans. But most of the council members that were involved in the planning of that is not on the board right now, except for the mayor, and I think President Vartan, you were on the planning board. But it's been going on for several years now, and I think the community is really looking for an update. So if you could give us some kind of timeline when that would be great. I hope it's not going to be towards the end of the summer, but something kind of rather recent. The other thing is, I was on Ashwood Avenue the other day, and the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. And it was pretty scary. There are cars going at least 40 to 45 miles an hour. On the side that doesn't have a sidewalk, little kids are running around. And I even had to kind of grab someone out of the way a little bit. So the residents are a little concerned about the speeding. They want to know if there's anything that we can do. There's the swimming pool there, and my kids walk there, and there's even the school there. So if you can touch upon those three things, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think probably the only thing that we're really able to address at this point is that the property on Ashwood Court, per the agreement between Habitat and the city and the residents, is going to be restored, Michael, right? Is going to be restored in exactly the way that it is described in the agreement. I think that's really all that we can address about that now. I talked about Broad Street for a minute in my report at the beginning. We met and spoke about it for an hour and a half before this meeting in closed session with our attorneys. That's really all I can share about that right now. And I think, the speed on Ashwood Ave is something that I think has been on our radar for some time, and I think is being discussed in the safety committee. I'm personally a big fan of a three-way at least stop with Pearl and Michigan, but I think that's not allowed per the MUTCD. So we're going to continue to look at other options for slowing down Ashwood Ave. So I think that's all we can say about that for right now. Other comments? I think we should follow up in a different format. Let's email in your questions and comments, and we'll follow up on that too.
I just want to know what council meeting I can come to when you talk about Broad Street West, maybe in a month or two, or if you have any idea.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
I just didn't get that.
I'm
Other
sorry,
comments?
we can't hear you when you're not at the mic, so, but
No,
we'll let you know.
We're good. Thank you. We're all good. Thank you. Okay. Other comments?
Hi, Tara Gagliano, 6 Asheville Court. So I don't know what it is with you guys and council meeting days, but last council meeting, it was the cops. This council meeting day, it was trees. So I walked out today to a bunch of trees being cut down along the park line. Conveniently, only spanning the part of the park line that covers the second building that's being built behind my house of affordable housing. So because of what happened last council meeting, we're not allowed to talk to them, they're not allowed to talk to us, meaning Habitat. So I tried to reach out, and I couldn't get in touch with anybody, so I was advised to call the cops to stop it and have some time. So the story I was told is, lo and behold, an arborist, I guess, came out, determined that conveniently those trees in that area were diseased or hazardous, which they shouldn't have been allowed to build so close to the embankment anyway. But I believe the city of Summit agreed that they were diseased or hazardous, and they literally took all of the trees down that screened the park line up to almost where my property line starts. So now, first of all, it looks horrible. Second of all, we've Oprah'd what the screening would look like, and we got no answers. And I just don't, like, now the taxpayers are, or whoever is on the hook for providing more screenage, and I don't know how that's gonna look. But at the end of the day, I was just wondering, because I abut that park line, and it literally goes right behind my house, and you can look into my bathroom windows, my bedroom windows. I want to know if I can come to you guys and ask you, like Habitat did, to take down the trees that are not safe or that have fallen already, and the city of Summit will pay for it.
Thank you for your comment.
Well, it's a
Trees,
question.
A tree question would go to Aaron.
Yes, I spoke to
Tree
Aaron
man,
earlier,
yes.
but that,
I do believe you spoke with Mrs. Lickities today.
I did.
So
I
so
did.
it's not that no one talked to you, someone did.
No, by the time she got back to me, I had already kind of placed a phone call into the cops.
But I just don't want, because she's right here, and I know she's talking today, and
But I didn't call Rosemary. She actually reached out to me.
So I just want to make it
So
clear
I
for the
reached
record.
out to Matt Delory.
Right, may I
So-
make it clear for the record that Mrs. Lickities did talk to you?
But there were no answers. I
understand, but I just want us to be clear that people weren't ignoring you.
I'm not saying that people are ignoring me, because if I thought that, I would just say that. That's,
So
I mean,
it's a miscommunication.
there's no miscommunication
On my
here.
part.
Oh, okay. But at the end of the day, just want to know, me as a taxpayer and the other taxpayers along that embankment, do we have the same right, or is that just afforded to affordable housing, which seems to be what's going on at this point?
So I think we're talking about potentially two different things here, right? I think the tree removal is related more to the park line than anything else, right? Aaron, can we just be clear about what's happened with the trees, right?
Through you, Council President, so the Habitat is preparing to bring in their second building, which, you know, is a modular installation with a crane. In doing their due diligence in advance, their tree expert had identified some trees that were hazardous or could pose a threat to their development once completed, which we sent to our forester, who did concur that some of those trees did need to be removed. And if we waited till after the building was in place, it would be a much greater expense and a logistical challenge to get access to there, because that's a part of the parkland that's not finished. And even when it is, it's difficult to get real vehicles up on top of it. So as such, that was the city authorized contractor doing the work today, because they were identified as hazardous. As you're aware, this council, you know, many years ago did accept the responsibility for the property that is the park line. And as a result, this is not the first time that residents who abut it have identified things that we have addressed, whether it's tree removal or debris cleanup or whatever. So we do come out for whoever does, you know, essentially put us on notice. As for the screening, I mean, this council has been, and previous councils have been very clear in identifying that that phase won't open until a screening plan is not only brought back to council, but physically installed before they open that next phase of the park line. So at a parkland meeting we had Tuesday, we don't have that plan yet. We are close. We did reach out and meet with most residents that abut the parkland just to get their input. And I say most, it wasn't because we didn't want to reach out, they just didn't get back to us. But I'd say about 2/3 did have their input, and we're working on a plan now. And we still hold to that plan, that once we have a plan, it'll be brought to council and installed before we open the next phase.
Understood. Okay, that's good news. Thank you.
So this poses another, like, puzzle piece, because now it was all trees up there at this point. So I want to know how we're marrying this now, because it just looks.
I think that's absolutely going to have to be part of our parkland planning process. And again, through the MOU that we have with the Parkline Foundation, everything for the parkline comes back to council, and we have to approve it here. And that is obviously I'm in the neighborhood too. That is obviously something that is extremely important to get figured out. We got to see exactly what it's going to look like.
Okay, but it just
Thank
seems
you.
like one hand isn't talking to the other
I think
hand.
we are.
They are.
Hands don't talk, but we are.
Your hands
working
talk
together.
a lot.
We are working together. We are working together.
But I'm just wondering
Don't worry.
if the meeting on Tuesday, those council members were made, or those committee members were made aware of what was going on the park line.
So
If they knew that,
So I think we're going to have to,
no?
let's take this conversation offline, right? So we'll have at the
Oh,
next
so no,
meeting-
they weren't aware. So one hand is not talking to the other.
So, I don't know what Parkline meeting we're talking about, so let's connect city staff, right, because we're not gonna be able to figure out tonight what the plan is gonna be for the Parkline, right? So we're gonna have to connect with city staff, yes.
I just wanted to ask a question. So maybe Council Member Allen, you can, I'm just trying to understand myself as well because I got a bunch of emails today about the trees as well. I'm just trying to understand, I'm looking at it on Google Earth. Are the trees, were they going to fall onto habitat? Is there a reason that they were diseased? I mean, I'm looking at it at Google Earth. But I guess to Ms. Gagliano's point, there was a Parkline meeting yesterday. Did we discuss the fact that all the trees were coming down and we're putting screening? That's all I'm asking, I guess.
I think that's a
No,
question
we didn't
for somebody
discuss
that
it.
was there.
Right.
Yeah, no, we didn't discuss it.
But the bottom line is, we've been talking for years about the Parkline. Like, years, before I was even elected, we're going back 7.5, almost 8 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I think it was Ellen Dixon who came to my backyard and asked to see if it could be a access
Correct.
point.
So it was a long time. And one of the things that we have been adamant about is that park lines do not open until the screening is properly done and approved by the residents. Because I was very adamant that you can't have people in your backyard looking in your bedrooms and your bathrooms. So it's not, and as Aaron just said, they're not going to open that next phase until the screening is done.
Okay, but people go up there anyway. My concern is the
I'm
way
gonna
it
ask you to
looks.
wrap this up now,
I will
please.
in a minute. My concern
gonna
is.
need to wrap up now.
I
Thank you.
understand. My concern is for crime as well. Crime is running rampant. There's been home invasions. That is an access to my backyard, and I want it on the record. I want a fence. I want something that buttons that up, because now it is wide open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments?
Hi, Dory Gagnon again. Okay, so kind of piggybacking onto what I said before. So a couple council meetings, maybe the last one, a resident came up and said, show me the facts about crime. And I was watching from home, and I was a little taken back by that, since it's been a topic that we've been talking about for a long time about crime. My best friend's house was the house that got broken into a couple weeks ago. She was asleep with her 3 children and her husband and her dogs, 2 dogs, mind you, when the people broke in through her back door. That's not the only attempt that has been at her home. She's had cars stolen. She's had cars attempted. She was just away and did not feel that she could leave her car there, so she left it at my home. So when this lady says, show me the facts, when a child or children are sleeping and somebody enters your home, I don't think what else we have to do as a community to say, we need to wake up. Now, my next door neighbor's house was broken into last year. Okay? Fact number 2. My friend's old house was broken into last week. Fact number 3. I don't know how many other facts I need to prove to this lady that there's crime here in this summit, okay, in our town. What I'm trying to say here is that we have a lot of additional resources that we're doing. And I asked Mr. Vartan on the Facebook Live what we can do to increase the police department. And he said he's going to rely on grants. Now, I don't want to rely on grants. I want to give the chief more police. I want more police out on the streets. I want to see more. I want to see more people protecting us. And I don't want to rely on a grant, Mr. Vartan. I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable to me. Okay? I put new security stuff.
That's not what I said, Dory.
Well, that's exactly what you said. You said we rely on grants for this and this and this. And what I'm asking for, and I would like a couple minutes to say, I would like more police presence, and I would like more police force. There used to be 52. I don't know how many there are now, but I am asking the chief of police if he could give us more police, and that's it, okay? So if we can relocate our resources within the city somehow, some way, to get more police, I would appreciate it, and those are the facts. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. I did not say we would rely on grants to fund the police department. What I said was we are always looking for more grant funding opportunities for the police department, and we've just passed our municipal budget last week, and we are going to continue to have the conversation about, in our budget process, how we allocate resources to staff. So that's what I'll say about that. Ella.
Good evening. Don Cacerio, 6 Ashwood Court. Unfortunately, all of you know me by now. I think what the question that my wife was trying to get across was, well, I'll ask it too. Now that Summit has a park line, the park line, the embankment, is that Summit's responsibility? So for example, a tree falls from the embankment wherever across the park line. Is the Park Line Foundation responsible, or is that simply, like, does Public Works take care of it, you know, going forward? How is it maintained, the park line?
Is that your only question?
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Aaron?
If through you, Council President, the park line will be the responsibility of the city, whether it's Public Works, contracted services, or if we, you know, do something like the Bryant Park Conservancy has, is yet to be determined. For right now, the stretch we have is the city and its DPW. In this instance, we used a contractor just because it was more efficient. They have the equipment they needed to do it quickly.
Okay, so, but that's just a temporary solution, is what you're saying? That's permanent.
Our
Oh, go-
agreements is that the city will maintain that through its perpetuity, so, yeah.
Basically through taxes,
Yeah.
so to speak. So whatever needs to be done, weeds need to be trimmed, whatever may happen, some damage. Okay. Because behind my house, like my wife said, it's been like this probably for 50 years because it's an abandoned embankment.
Right.
There's brush, there's trees, and because it's an abandoned embankment, I might lean over the fence with my weed whacker a little bit to keep away from my fence, but, I mean, a lot of that could be cleaned up. And is that gonna be part of, because where you put screenage would obviously be where the people are gonna walk. But to plant whatever, a fence, trees, or whatever, some of that's gonna have to be cleaned up, so I assume that's what the plan is. I mean, it would seem logical. I don't.
Yeah, I think that's probably likely. I don't know. I'm not a landscape kind of person, so I don't know.
Is that what they're talking about? Is like that does anybody know? Is that like?
Through you, Council President, I don't know about the embankment per se. I would say one thing is, it is a deterrent if you don't fully clear it out. Like you would, in my opinion, I wouldn't want to fully clear it out because it helps keep, protection between you and the park line. But I would say that the screening portion of it would be on the top of the embankment, and that is what has to come back to council. So we haven't seen a plan for that yet. It'll include fencing and trees and so forth. So once that plan is, we can view it, the Parkline Committee will come together and talk about it, and I assume, Director Jurgen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but then it'll come back to council. So I don't know how we would handle the embankment, but one, you shouldn't have any trees that, if there's trees that are dead, I would think that we'd want to get rid of them as a city.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because, in the past, like I said, it's an abandoned embankment for years. So I was president of the Italian American Club for 14 years. And for years, dead trees would fall into the lot. And I would just have my guys or somewhere where I go out and cut it up with a chainsaw, because it really wasn't the city's responsibility, so to speak, back then. So my question is, like now, let's say, not that's gonna happen, there's a tree, a storm comes, boom, it falls. Does it call the city? Will the city be maintaining it now that that's a park line?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay.
And see-click fix would be the way to do that.
Oh, okay.
And through you, Council President, I know Councilmember Fox can detail, because I remember my first coming on council. I was like, what is this arborist? Why does someone have this? And come to find out, one of the most important positions that residents can call and have their trees evaluated. And he has a very well thought out plan. And it is a resource that we're recognized. Help me out,
Vincent?
Councilmember Fox.
You can have you can't have your own private trees evaluated by our
I'm sorry,
arborist.
I'm misrepresenting.
But if, if you have a situation where you need to remove a tree, in the process of getting a tree permit, the arborist would come out and take a look and, determine if you have a tree that's dead or dying.
And that's what went on the issue with the parkland, with the trees that were removed today.
So the arborist, yeah, he would have looked at them and confirmed that, yes, indeed, they were either dead or dying. Correct, Aaron?
Correct, yes.
So I appreciate everybody's input on this. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, so, and the park line, Mary, like you said, is not opening until the screenage is in place.
Correct. And that plan has to come back before council for
It
approval,
has to be approved before it's even implemented.
by council.
And then the park line won't open until fences and all that.
Correct.
Bingo. Correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No. Sorry.
We asked you to clarify something that you said.
Okay.
Because we need to
Quickly,
clarify the
though.
record, right?
Quickly, though.
You had said that Ashwood Court was going to be restored pursuant to the settlement agreement, right? I think the settlement agreement says restore or replace the wall as may be necessary. Is that what you meant?
So,
Council
So,
President,
Michael,
may
yes.
I address that? Yes, so 3 weeks ago, a letter went out from our city attorney to the Habitat's attorney to state exactly what you're reciting, and is very clear in the settlement agreement. So it's my understanding, the Habitat internally has had a meeting. I'm about to have a call with the chief operating officer tomorrow. I know that the engineers are getting together on Friday to discuss this. Nothing will happen with the drainage or the retaining wall until we have the say, and certainly contact the property owner that's affected by it.
And then just my last question is, how long are we going to wait before we just do it and then send them the bill?
We're going to do a cooperative because that's what the agreement says. So we will get it done as quickly as we need to get it done with the
Check that
project.
agreement. I'm not sure it says it. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, we're going to close the public comment period of the evening, and we're moving on to council member comments and new business. Anybody? Susan?
I know it's late, you, Council President. I really just want to say, I did get nervous about the weather, and I was thrilled to come out to the Pride event and to see our faith community, Overlook Hospital, Atlantic Health, the kids up on the stage. It was a wonderful event, and I'm looking forward to this weekend for the AAPI, and Juneteenth is coming, and Juneteenth had a parade on the first annual event where it took place. So I know I lean on the side of optimism, but I am proud of Summit, and so glad that community members are engaging. I know I got an email from one of our high school, I believe, journalists, Verve, and they're watching us and want to share with what they're writing about. And I want us to just hang in there for all of the horrible things that we're hearing about, we're experiencing with the climate, and we will come together as a community on hard issues. I always laugh about who would be against a stop sign, but on stop sign and sidewalk issues, on all situations, it's good for us to dialogue in a respectful way and disagree, and I just want us to stay encouraged.
Thank you. I like it.
I have something quick.
Yes.
I attended a breakfast this morning in town hosted by Bridges Outreach that was designed to inform residents of Summit how they and we can help people in Summit who are experiencing homelessness. So I thought we had a lot of really great conversations this morning, and so I just wanted to share that I attended that and participated in that.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I know it's late as well. The one thing I did want to mention, and to piggyback on Councilwoman Levine's comment, we are trying to get a better understanding of the housing vouchers. I think I asked a question at the last meeting, but we are in coordination with Rich from Bridges as well as Keith Kennard, and I think, have we finally got an answer on that, Council President Bertan, or we don't have any, correct? Is that?
That's my understanding.
So we don't have any housing vouchers in Summit, New Jersey?
The Housing Authority,
Okay.
the Summit Housing Authority contracts with the Madison Housing Authority as their administrative agent. And so we need to coordinate with them on whatever housing vouchers are available.
Okay.
Through,
And then the last comment I had to make is I've reached out to this, I should probably have mentioned this to you, Councilmember Miniger, but I forgot. I have reached out to try to get a better understanding for the next COC meeting. And if you could just share that with us when you get a chance, that'd be great.
The next meeting should be tomorrow in the morning. And I did attend one, so.
I was on that one, yeah. Was it?
So I did attend the first one that the city was a part of. There was several updates from the county, from the partners in that group. Several interesting takeaways from that. They talked about bills that are making their way through the state assembly and through the state senate that would help with things that people that are at risk for homelessness that would benefit from. Code Red plans around the city, how those are, that kind of funding is, funding for Code Red is happening. There's also some really great guidance given to the city, to the members about submitting letters of support, how those should be done in order to get grant funding. And then one of the most interesting ones was a subcommittee dedicated to establishing the coordinated entry system. So a coordinated entry, basically using HIMIS, HMIS, which is a system that we enter information for people, coordinating that across the county so that it's the same at every entry point. And then from those notes, Rich and folks at Summit Warm Hearts have talked about coordinating within the city of Summit to make sure that they're doing the same thing, to make sure that people that come into the system, that go to any provider are treated the exact same way, make their way through the same, to the same resources. I took away from this, and this is going to be a slow process because it's a large goal. The goal is ending and preventing homelessness, which is huge. There's a lot of small things you can do here in the city, but what we're working toward will be slow. But a couple of the things that I think that are great goals to achieve here or aim for are making sure that HMIS, the system, is used the same across all the entry points here in the city. That the Summit Police know where to direct people for resources when they're interacting with people. And also, where possible, and I know it's a difficult one, it's not a panacea, but finding out how to get portable housing vouchers so that they can be used in places where where the value of those vouchers is able to be used. So that was a good meeting. I look forward to the next one as well.
Thank you.
I attended that meeting as well, Delia.
I did. I was on it as well.
I saw
Yeah.
there was a great deal of Summit people on there, and I'm so glad you raised it because I really wanted to understand what's the intent, what are we trying to do here, and I was overjoyed. We have been very critical of Union County for not being proactive about lots of services. But in this one, they are pulling folks together, and any of you all who work, you know collaboration is the hardest thing because you have self-interest, and to have watched these organizations from different parts of the county sharing information and being helpful, that's exactly what we heard from Amanda, from Grace. And to not have that scarcity mentality, and for them to be talking about ways, funding, systems, and above all, focusing on a safety net level of care. People don't want to go to shelters and whatnot because they're afraid, and they're saying, okay, we have to figure out how to make sure that there is a standard, I guess is what. And so that is, it's hard to do, and for resources that have not previously been available to now be available. And we have to challenge and make it better. Summit is always going to make it better. And we will help move the nation, move the state of New Jersey, move the county to be better about how you treat everybody. And, but I know it'll be, like you said, it's going to be a long road, and to allow them to get it right, because it was I was like, who's there? I always like to know who's in the room. And of course it was bureaucrats and who are people I love, and the activist organizations, all different types. I know you're ready to go. Sorry, but
We got a couple more.
I know.
Couple more comments
but
over here.
It was good.
Real fast, I just wanted to let everybody know who's here and listening or watching. Chief and I were on the phone today, and because of this dire air quality situation, our patrol officers are talking to anyone that they see who is living unsheltered today, and telling them asking them if they want to go to some place that is sheltered. And there is shelter tonight at St. John's, and tomorrow during the day at Beacon United. So our police know that, and they're focused on it tonight. So I just wanted, in case anyone's wondering, so.
And that's great news, and I just wanted to follow up. I also attended the Bridges breakfast this morning, and I was really heartened to hear that actually the numbers of unsheltered people in Summit has gone down since our peak, which is good. They reported 25 people right now, 20 of whom are engaging with Bridges in some way or another, 17 of whom who are actually going through case management, 3 others who show up but are not really engaged in case management. So that's a really positive thing. I think this is something that with coordination, with hard work, and coordination with the county and working with the COC, CEAS, we could actually get to functional zero in Summit. It's achievable. It's a small enough number, and I think Bridges is very committed to working with us and working with all the other organizations, and we have a lot of really, really great organizations in this community. The other thing is Bridges has put together these little contact cards, and I have a pile of them to give to our first responders, because I think this would be great, because it has information about where the drop-in hours are and where, what services are available. So I plan to hand these off to our first responders if they want to use them. So anyway, just wanted to provide that update as well.
Just want to make a really quick observation that there's not a member on this table who isn't personally actively engaged in helping to find solutions to this problem. And each of us is working. We're working together, and we're also working on some separate paths, but are very actively engaged. And that's just what you're hearing offhandedly at the end of a long evening of meetings, how important this is to all of us and how serious it is.
Thank you.
Just one final question, Rosemary. The one question I have is tomorrow's meeting, is it actually an open public meeting? Like, can members of the public attend if they want to? I think we've asked that question, haven't received an answer.
I posed the question to the county, but I've not had a response.
Speak,
They
okay.
said that they had to speak to their legal counsel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it, right? Council?
We need a
Okay.
motion.
We need a motion, though, to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
So at the Pride.